All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Excess Exceed. This is Gearface. I am so fortunate to be joined once again by a friend of the show, D, to talk about Baelkhor. D, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Super excited to learn about Baelkhor. I think it's probably known publicly at this point for the older characters in Exceed, the season 1 and 2 characters, I kind of make it a point to not look ahead of time. I don't know anything about Baelkhor by design going into this lesson. He is one of the last characters left that I can truly say that I'm going to learn from zero, and D's the person to do it. So really, genuinely very excited to learn about this weird guy. Um, Couple disclaimers, as always, before we get started. Number one, play Exceed for fun. We're going to be talking on this show about playing Exceed to win. Sometimes those things line up, sometimes they don't. If the lines of play that we're describing don't sound fun to you, don't play that way. Play how you do find fun. You'll play more. You'll play longer. You'll probably learn more in the process. Disclaimer number two is that we don't know everything. Exceed's not a solved game. You're probably going to hear a lot of, especially for a character this old, you're probably going to hear a lot of always do this, never do that. Kind of heuristics. Those are heuristics. They're not. Those are blanket statements that are not always true. Um, take all of those things with a grain of salt. Develop your own lines of play with Baelkhor. Tell us why we're wrong. As a matter of fact, you become the expert. Um, Record your own videos. Let me watch them. Yeah.
Given to darkness.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the temptation of becoming a YouTuber to refute another YouTuber with like almost 60 subscribers. That's going to be the path to fame and riches for you. Yeah, please, with all of that out of the way, D, I'd love to know a little bit about Baelkhor.
Excellent. All right. I am super excited to talk about this character because even though I never mained him, he's one of my favorite season 1 characters for a lot of interesting reasons. Like he has a lot of interesting features.
Okay.
Let's start with the obvious. You've looked at his character card. It has a 1 on it.
Yes.
That's a 1 gauge exceed.
In a season where I almost everybody, maybe literally everybody else, has a 3 gauge exceed.
There's a single 2 gauge exceed. It's Endeavorous.
Yes. Yep. Okay.
That's the only other one that's not 3.
Right. And I guess like kind of it maybe not, this is not always true, but sort of by reputation, Red Horizon has sort of like a packaged exceed deal. You spend you spend 3 gauge and you probably get like +2 power or something like it. Like a lot of characters have that um calculation built into their kits.
Mhm.
Baelkhor, not one of those characters.
Yeah, so he's got a 1 gauge, and I'm just going to very, very briefly. There's also a revert. He has 1 gauge on either side.
Oh. So not the
He is,
same kind of revert as what we would see in Under Night, but a modal exceed where you can swap back and forth.
yep, it is possible for him to flip back from his exceed mode, which, these two things both together especially imply, like, hey, exceeding might not be strict upside. You might not
Right.
want to, like, turn one block and then turn to exceed.
Right.
Like, for some reason, for you, it's probably not just +2 power like it is for other characters, which is obviously a slight simplification, but that is the going rate. Like, it is kind of like, okay, you probably got about +2 power worth of value if you're a season 1 character with a 3 gauge exceed.
Sure. And typically, I mean, to your point, like we see exceed modes that aren't always strict upgrades or things that you might not want to rush for pretty often in Seventh Cross, for example, where it's definitely possible to exceed too early before you've set your engine up. In Red Horizon, it's, if your character is going to exceed, they are usually incentivized to do so as soon as it's reasonable to do so. Um, and in order to get what is generally an upside, an advantage that is pretty like it's like an uncontested advantage. It's definitely better to have +2 power than to not have it.
Yeah, and there are certainly exceptions. There are certainly side grades. There are certainly things where it's not just +2 power, but it is in almost all cases. In almost all cases, upside every time you do it, and in almost all cases, or say in most cases, strict upside.
Yeah.
Um, it's just the cost is you gave up 3 gauge, and you probably had some pretty dumb ultras because this is season 1, the season of dumb ultras.
Sure. Yeah. Obviously, that's not saying that it is always the right idea to exceed as Red Horizon characters. Just that what their exceed modes look like is usually like, here's Reese and here's bigger, cooler Reese.
Yeah. So something different is already going on with Baelkhor, right? He has a 1 gauge exceed and he has a 1 gauge reverts.
Right.
which is already kind of strange. He also, in his text, mentions sealing.
Yes.
Uh, the only Red Horizon character, to my recollection, unless I've missed something, he's actually the one of two Red Horizon characters. Sorry, one of two season one characters that seals cards at all, and the only Red Horizon character. I'm mixing up my words. Red Horizon in season one. Juno seals
Yep.
cards is the other thing.
Yep.
A solo fighter from Esper Cross, not part of Red Horizon, and harder to find, and also
Banned from
in the
competition.
banned from competition.
Yeah.
Um,
And to my recollection, Juno does it as a like a mitigating factor because her
yeah,
ability to recur boosts is so powerful. It's so powerful anyway that she needed to be banned from competition. But the idea was that once she has recurred it, she can't do it again because that boost is sealed.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
She can basically play all of her boosts twice, sealing it after the second play. So she sort of gets to just play her boosts without reshuffling.
Right.
Um, doesn't quite work that way in practice, but it's kind of close to that, and that is often how it feels, at least.
Sure.
Um,
And since then, we've seen plenty of characters, Nine the Phantom, for example, who are sealing as part of an engine, or Minato, who is sealing for benefit, for recursion, like all sorts of, some characters are sealing as a way to say, you don't get this card anymore. Other
mhm,
characters are sealing things as like another state that cards need to be in that isn't your discard pile, but it's another place they can go.
mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
what,
So
how does, I guess my first question then is how does Baelkhor interact with that sealing process?
So Baelkhor, through that and through some other things that we're foreshadowing as we look at these interesting features, I think is a premonition of later characters that I think the word game plan might be apt. The idea that this is a character who isn't just here to play Exceed; they are doing something.
Right.
Um, so every character in Exceed has the goal of reducing the opponent's life to zero. Um, and they do this by playing Exceed. You manage your resources, you trade up when you trade, you win when you don't, you mitigate your losses when you don't get to trade well or win cleanly. Those are things everybody does, but some characters can be in any situation, look at their cards and be like, yeah, I'll play that.
Right.
They have strong, flexible tools. They'll win the game one strike at a time. Others have to meet certain conditions to make anything happen. Please note the printed stats on this card,
Oh,
and then read the
okay.
before effect.
Sure. All right. To your point about foreshadowing, this is a Turnalas card, or it
Mhm.
sure looks like one.
It,
It
it
sure
is
it sure
similar, right?
vibes like one.
Yeah, it is an eye that doesn't get to have speed.
Right.
Right. So Eternalist transforms his normals, and then he has a card with eye in the name, Evil Eye, which starts at 0 power, but goes up to 8 power. Um, Here is a much slower card that is him staring at you, and it starts at 1 power and goes up to 8 power.
Right.
Yeah. Uh, kind of the slowest of the eyes. And actually, when we start to use the term eye to refer to card shapes, this is not included among them because it's too slow.
Right.
This is designed to destroy anything slower than it, and eyes typically lose just to
Yeah.
counterattacks.
They poke them out. But to your point about like, okay, like this part of the card is
Yeah,
one of the least impressive stat lines I've ever seen in Exceed. Clearly, in
yeah,
order to make use of this, I'm going to need to be doing some more work.
yep, yeah. Please enjoy this on curve option that still loses to spike.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yep.
Badly, and it loses to sweep devastatingly. But then it can become 2 to 3 8 5, which is
Which is
a
better.
stat line.
Yes, that's better than a 2 to 3 1 5D.
Yeah, as it turns out, 2 to 3 8 5, 2 gauge might not be a fair cost for that.
No.
Like that's probably too cheap for an on curve 8 power attack. Um, so we can see that Baelkhor is a character who's going to be strong in the late game.
Right.
He uh, also tells us some things about himself as we glance over his cards. Let's look at the Storm of Souls, also a very unimpressive printed stat line.
Yes.
But he spends life to gain extra power, so this is a 1 to 3 7 5 that costs him 5 life.
Right.
If he does that. Naturally, if he isn't going to stun the opponent, he may or may not decide to do that. But if he needs to stun the opponent, he will. So this will always stun sweep. Assuming he has at least 6 life.
Sure.
Players looking for fancy ways to concede, I'm sorry, you cannot spend your last point of life. That is not legal.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So I said at least.
you can spend your last point of life taking an illegal game action and getting disqualified from the game, and
I
that's a
guess that's true.
concession. Yeah.
I guess that's true. You can
So
illegally do it.
right. Don't let your dreams be dreams, people.
That's right. That's right. Um, so we're like, all right, Baelkhor is paying costs to get power. We have Blade of Souls, which has the one of the most impressive princess stat lines,
Yeah. Wow.
but then in reverse of the other cards, some really awful text.
Yep.
Note that does not say take 4 non-lethal damage.
Okay, so you could concede by playing this.
Yes.
Thank
Yes.
goodness. I was concerned.
And it's a before effect, so it
Yep.
doesn't matter if it would have killed the opponent. You will kill yourself
You will
first.
die first, sure.
Yep. But it is an absolutely ridiculous printed stat line. This is like sweep. This is basically EX sweep on one card.
Yeah. This
Like
is I
sweep
mean,
3 power 7.
a couple of days ago I had a lesson with Avusonian and Marathi. And this
Mhm.
is not quite God of War, right? We're down a speed, we're down a point of range, we're down a really, really nasty pit effect. But that's a
Mhm.
3 gauge ultra. And this is a
Yeah.
special. Without
Yep.
this before text, that's pretty unreasonable.
Yeah. It's completely insane. But we have this before text, which says actually you're paying a cost for what you're doing.
Right.
And then coming back again to the character ability, in order to seal cards, he is paying 2 life. So the through line of Baelkhor is that he's a game plan character, a character who uh, has a mid to long term game plan where he needs to set up various situations to have leverage. Without those, he's pretty underwhelming.
Right.
Early game Baelkhor is not a threat. He's not, he still plays Exceed. He has normals. Normals are good. He has some kind of unreasonable cards in some very specific ways. But, any given random character, not that we use any given random character, but any given random character is probably going to do very well against early game Baelkhor because he just doesn't have much going on yet.
Sure.
He's building up. He's setting up. He is assembling his army. He is summoning them from the pits of hell. Late game Baelkhor can be down 25 life and still be winning.
Right.
Which is absolutely insane. Earlier today, I played a Baelkhor game, and I think in four or 5 strikes, I did 40 damage.
Now, D, Exceed characters only have 30 life most of the time, unless you're up against like a Tinker Knight or a Taisei type.
Yeah, my opponent played block twice, and I still killed them.
Okay.
Like they blocked 13 and 10, and then I just kept pushing damage through, and they died.
Right. Because they only have 2 blocks, and you have more power than that.
Yes.
Okay.
On which note, Baelkhor has unbelievably crushing amounts of red number. He has absolutely insane power values. That's because he is a late game monster. Early game Baelkhor, especially as with our printed stats, it's not going to look very impressive. Late game Baelkhor is just completely insane. Like I don't know how you would evaluate it numerically because of how much setup he has to do, but it wouldn't surprise me if game by game, Baelkhor just had the highest power specials in season 1.
Yeah, and that's it. And this is a season, maybe not card for card, but this is a season with the Big Dumb Ultra.
Yeah,
a famously, your Raijin oaths,
you're from Hells.
You're from Hells, for example. Sure. God, yeah, that's a stat line.
This is
this
one of the
looks,
biggest and dumbest.
Yeah, this looks very much like Hell Salvation,
Correct,
Heaven's
and that is not
Punishment.
a coincidence.
Yeah, Hell
Yep.
Salvation is the Natali Ultra. There we go.
Yep. And they are allied faction characters. They are both from
makes
Hell.
a lot of sense. Okay. Yep, same gauge cost and everything. So, you mentioned that late game Baelkhor can come back from a 25 life deficit because he's quite poor in the early game. Should I expect to be in situations where I need to make a comeback as Baelkhor?
Yes.
Okay.
Baelkhor usually looks like he's losing for most of the game. And this may sound familiar when I described the Eternalist game, or at least I assume that I mentioned this in Eternalist. Did I do Eternalist? Hold on.
Yeah, you did.
Okay, cool. Basically, which characters I've done. Like I've talked about Eternalist, but I don't remember if it was a lesson. Anyway,
You've done an awful lot of lessons, D. At this point, I think you can be forgiven for forgetting a few.
All right, but yes, like something that I've said about Eternalist, right, is that like Eternalist is going to be trading down. His early game, he will be behind on life. If you reach late game and Eternalist is even or ahead on life, the opponent is screwed.
Yeah.
And a similar thing is going on here with Baelkhor, where like what he is going to be doing is he's going to be paying costs, often life, often effectively life, in order to get his late game set up. And then once it's set up, uh, he launches his invasion and he destroys the world. Like he is Hell's general, and that's what he's here to do. Um, so there are some costs with this. So it's not, it is possible to kill him. It's arguably possible to kill him before he gets everything online that he wants to have online. It is sometimes possible to deprive him of the ability to get some of his setup. He has ways to guarantee things that he wants to guarantee. But actually his key issue, as we'll come to after I describe the whole kit, is that his only neutral tool is having stats.
Mm-hmm.
There are no movement effects on any of these cards. Attack or boost. Movement is honest. There is no advantage printed on any of these cards.
Okay.
He is going to be playing good, honest, neutral. He does not chain a combo into anything where he gets advantage and now he kills you with his range 1 command grab. No, he is standing where he's standing. He is where it looks like he is. And that's okay with him, because when he's standing at range 3 holding something like this over you,
right,
he's winning.
Right, sure.
Like, it's your job to solve that problem.
Right. And both of these things, I mean, so advantage chaining less so, but like action compression and movement effects are both in like slightly shorter supply in Red Horizon in general, right? Like this is the season that really teaches you how to use the move action to dodge things like this. But Baelkhor, it sounds like even more so, is like immobile and static unless you're taking a specific action that will allow you to move.
Yeah, which means you need to know how you're using all of the movement that you're using, because your normals are your source of movement or force is your source of movement.
Right. Okay.
And you're going to need movement because we'll just glance real quick, but 3 to 5, 2 to 3, 3, 2 to 4. That's 2 specials and 2 ultras that do not hit at range 1.
Sure.
And that's pretty awkward and a pretty significant problem. Like you are very reliant on normals at range 1. You have a few specials which can be interesting, but are broadly mediocre in most cases. You don't have anything that just says, "Aha, I win at range 1," whereas you actually do have things that say, "I win at range 3 or 4."
Right. Okay.
So that is your key weakness.
So like many of these sort of like game plan setup characters, I'm going to be doing a whole lot of fiddling on my side, and my opponent is going to be, we're not talking about counterplay yet, but this kind of informs the rest of the lesson, I think, is going to be walking up to me and punching me in the face.
Yes.
Okay.
That is what we expect a lot of the game to look like. And so, playing the basics of Exceed, playing fundamentals, where you say, okay, I need to trim my losses, I need to trade if I can trade, I need to get away clean if I can get away clean, be willing to play your focuses or your sweeps, or, play defend so that you can make a trade more palatable or more likely.
Right.
Do things that help secure those so that you are advancing your game plan steadily and behind by less when you are ready to, again, launch your invasion.
Right.
All right.
I feel
overall
but before we actually get into the kit, one question that I did have, and I guess this is probably a lead-in actually, now that I think about it.
Go for it.
The sort of like archetypal game plan kit shape in Exceed has transforms. Like in Seventh Cross, for example, things that will appear on the board and give me value the whole game. And a big part of my my game plan, the thing that I'm sacrificing life and playing neutral in order to confirm, are those transformations. With Baelkhor, doesn't have those. Is it sealing cards instead? That's what I'm looking to do.
Exactly. Yeah. So essentially, his substitute for transformations is having a card in a sealed area.
Okay.
He would love to seal the rainbow. Well, actually, he would love to seal focus and up from the normals. Doesn't really care about block.
Got it.
Because as it turns out, hey, that's 7 different sealed cards. Not that it says different on here, but like that's 7.
Right.
It's almost like it's intended to tell you that you want to be sealing one of every normal. Also, let's now use this as the lead-in into the dumbest source of stats, maybe in the game for its cost.
Yeah, those are Zangief stats.
And the cost is nothing.
Right.
The cost
There's no
is
critical. There's no corner for Vega, for example. This is just +3/+1 if you have a matching card.
yes. So let's talk about the like the core of how his engine actually works.
Okay.
When you hit the opponent, and actually let me, I should have thought of this. I'm gonna pull some alternate arts because it has an updated template.
Oh yeah,
Right.
this is something that I wanted to ask about, and also, God,
Thank you, Moriarty.
friend of the show, Moriarty, you carry the Exceed community on your back. So this is something that, like, all of Red Horizon has uh, been retemplated for its inclusion in Tabletop Simulator, I think. And I think for the most part,
You're
the
actually
cards that
not
we have,
looking at the template.
this is the retemplate.
No, it's not.
Okay, so yeah, sorry, I misheard you then. The cards that we have on the field here are what you would have if you bought Baelkhor in print. Um,
Yes.
and I know that like there's some functional errata for some characters. Um, is that something we'll have to get into later in the lesson? Do you think?
To be brief, like there's a well, I'll cover it in an aside later because it's really funny. The intended way that Baelkhor worked had to like is completely jank and doesn't function in the engine because once
Okay,
season 2 came out, it became clear that the intents just didn't work. Like it
okay,
didn't make sense.
okay.
And then season 3 came out and it worked even less. So there is a functional errata. However, this effect still works pretty well if you read it and you understand what is supposed to be happening.
Right.
Um, like the written intent, I think, is relatively clear. Um, there are some funny edge cases, which is what results in the extremely weird rulings, and we can talk about that later.
Sure.
But yeah, let's go through it. So when you hit the opponent, which is functionally, as I said, a hit effect, you can pay 2 life. So whatever the strike was happening, you are losing it by 2 life more than you were, or winning it by 2 life less than you were.
Right.
But if you do, the opponent's attack will be sealed. This means, for example, your opponent can play assault and you can play sweep. They hit you for 4. You hit them for 6, but you take 2 more damage. But they don't get gauge. Instead, you get a sealed card.
Right. So, and this is happening after the strike. I'm not denying them the ability to hit me with their card if I go first or anything like that. All the
Yeah.
stuff happens as normal, and then it's just instead of where their card would go, it's going to my sealed area instead.
Yeah. Conversely, I guess I should have you be the Baelkhor. If Baelkhor plays assaults and the opponent plays sweep, Baelkhor can say, "All right, cool. Yeah, I will spend 2 and take 6. I'll lose 8 life this strike, but you don't get gauge. I do, and it's my advantage. And
Right.
that's nice.
Right. Okay.
So you're gonna be inching your life closer to 0 the more you use this. But it is very often worth it for a couple obvious reasons, right? So the most obvious reason is, hey, you just stopped your opponent from getting a gauge.
Right.
Like, what if that gauge was the gauge that brought them into the threshold of having some really dumb ultra online? Like, they were playing assault so they could come into range 1 and then clobber you with the 4 gauge ultra, and you said, actually, you don't have that 4th gauge.
Right. Okay.
It is a denial tool. However, it's not worth 2 life for denial alone. There are some cases where like that threshold might really matter, and you might be like, all right, I need to prevent this, so I'll spend 2 life just to stop them from having the gauge, even though I don't care about having this card in my sealed area. But in most cases, what you want is the double value, because to be clear, if you seal your opponent's sweep, neat. Now you have 2 sweeps that are both speed 3, power 9.
Right. Right. I don't need to use up one copy of my sweep to fuel the other sweep. I can use my opponent's instead.
Yep.
Okay.
That also means that you can have some of the most crackpot stat lines in the world. For example, an EX Assaults that is speed 7, power 8.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds pretty good.
Yep. Like, what if Assault couldn't lose to Focus or anything else in the world?
Right.
But that's obviously if you get the chance to EX, which maybe you don't.
Right.
But yeah, so fueling your sealed area by sealing normals while also denying the opponent gauge, is the expected use case of this.
Okay. And the reason that I'm hoping to seal normals is because outside of I'm increasingly going to realize is a incredibly cursed mirror match, outside of the Baelkhor mirror, I what I'm looking for are cards with the same name as the card that I'm going to be playing later.
It means additional copy. In the event that we have some other character who is released someday who has Blade of Souls, but it's a totally different card, ignore that.
Sure.
It is looking for another copy.
Right. Okay.
Um,
So and the cards that I can be assured that everybody will have are the normals.
yes.
Okay.
Which, just to make this explicit, Spike has the same name as Dust.
Yes.
Assault has the same name as Slap.
Fair. Okay. So in cross season play, we're looking for the colored
symbol.
gemstone on the top of the card.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. And if for some incredibly cursed reason, right, there was a character who had a special named grasp, this is not that.
Sure.
But yeah, like, you don't have any Shoryukens. You can't play a Shoryuken.
Right.
Stealing your opponent's Shoryuken is not going to make your Exceed ability better.
Right.
It benefits.
It might deprive them gauge, but to your point earlier, that's not enough reason to seal a card.
In most cases, unless it hits a specific gauge threshold where you're like, they need to not have exactly this much gauge.
Okay.
Which for season, for Street Fighter and for Guilty Gear Strive characters, 1 might be that threshold.
Sure.
But then you look at 2 and you're like, I don't really care if they have 2 gauge, now that they already have 1.
Right.
But yes, it does empower this attack, but you will probably get this attack powerful enough without needing to spend 2 life for 1 power over the course of the game. Because if you're just empowering this attack, that's what's going on, and that's not a very good rate.
Right. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So you're expecting to use this to seal normals in particular. Sorry, this.
Oops.
It is almost always worth it if they would get the gauge. If they wouldn't, there is a very real decision, right? So if you play Spike and if you play Spike, they play Sweet. Well, you stun them.
I'm stunning them anyway. They're not going to get the gauge no matter what.
At this point, it's a decision of, well, do I think I'm going to get another chance to get a sweep in my sealed area, or is it worth paying 2 life to have their sweep in my sealed area? Typically, if you don't already have it, I think you should take it. That is often a tighter value evaluation where it's not as obvious.
Right.
And if they didn't play normal, then don't bother.
Right.
And
I don't get any particular value out of having a second copy of something in my sealed area.
Correct.
Other than
this.
Okay,
exactly.
For Accursed Gated, okay.
Which, yeah, we will expect Accursed Gauge to become powerful enough by other means that you don't necessarily need to worry about sealing everything you possibly can.
Sure.
Just for that.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. So before we actually move on to the kit itself, he has this 1 gauge and revert ability. Because I have that, as you said, it seems to lead me to the possibility that it might be possible to exceed too early. Should I be trying to avoid reverting if I can possibly help it?
Yeah, if you have to revert, it means that you exceeded at the wrong time. You screwed up, which means that you have spent 2 gauge. Sorry, you spent 2 gauge in 2 turns, wasting your time.
Right.
So here's my universal statement: never revert.
Sure.
If you're reverting, it means you made the mistake earlier.
Instead, play differently before you had to revert.
Yes. Okay. And if you're in the situation where you feel like you need to revert, but you're already in exceed mode, still don't revert. Just look at how you're going to use the tools you have left to yourself. Because this is not the only way he has to get cards in a sealed area.
I see. Okay. So broadly, the play patterns are going to be sort of similar to what a 7th Cross character would be expecting, where, this is for building up your game plan, this is for executing your game plan. We see this sort of cycle all the time. But like a 7th Cross character, often, their front side ability might allow them to more easily confirm transforms or build resources or something. But they can still do it once they've exceeded if they have to.
There's some way to do that.
Sure. Okay. So I should probably be thinking about exceeding when I don't think that I'll need specifically this ability anymore, and when I have a turn off where my opponent's not punching me in the face.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that is generally the case. It is also sometimes the case where if you go, man, I really need to threaten, this speed 6 power 7 assaults, I guess I'll threaten this speed 6 power 7 assault because I have a sealed assault and the other copy is still available to me.
Sure.
But that's if you're doing that and also you're thinking about maybe reverting afterward, then you're doing it wrong. Like
Right.
it is a commitment.
Right. Okay.
Mhm.
That makes sense.
All right. So I've already introduced the first two most egregious sources of red number.
Faithful.
You have a 13 power ultra, and you have some of the dumbest normals, especially. Also, lest we forget, this is indeed often 8 power. If you steal a copy of this, well, then it's 11 power at speed 6.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a card.
Yes, it
Um,
is.
that's 4 fewer gauge than this speed 7 power 13, but it does about as much damage. Um, and it's just about as hard to cross out from.
Right. Yeah.
So this is a pretty good ultra. Um, that costs 0 gauge. Also hits at range 2, which from hell doesn't.
Are
Which
you
by the
are
way,
you are you leading me to believe that From Hell is something that I shouldn't play in most matchups or in most games as
oh
Baelkhor?
no, I'm leading you to believe it's something that your opponent won't let you play. If they do, kill
Mm,
them.
right. Fair.
But
Right.
unlike Natali, where it's like you've got this big 12 damage ultra and you're gonna hit with it because you can guarantee it, like just do it. You need the value, and then occasionally mix up so that they don't play block against it every time.
Right.
With Baelkhor, they will stop you from getting this because you can only attain it through honest neutral, right? At range
You
3.
don't have that one push or pull the opponent one and then strike that Natali has.
Yeah.
Boost. Okay.
Like the only way you set it up is by winning a strike on defense when you played grass, right? Where you defend with grasp and you push them in range 3 and you go, oh, you sure are at range 3. Die,
Right.
I guess.
Right. Yeah. Maybe don't
Um,
stand there.
yeah, but like anytime they have a turn at range 3, barring exceptional circumstances, they are going to either like play a speed boost or they're going to move.
Right.
Um, Now obviously that's only true once you have 5 gauge, but you'll have 5 gauge.
Okay.
Uh,
It's not in competition from your exceed mode for one thing. It's like your exceed mode's very, very cheap.
yes. You also have a boost that builds 2 gauge.
Okay.
Um,
There you go.
we'll come back to.
Another thing you said on the Natalia lesson, like one of your big positions on Natalia, like if you don't hit with Hell's Salvation as Natalia, how are you winning the game? And
Mhm.
Baelkhor, to your point, does not have that problem.
Yeah. It's like, oh no, I didn't hit with my 13 power attack. I guess I'll just hit you with my 9 and 10 power attacks.
Right.
Darn.
That don't cost
Uh,
5 gauge and that I've been setting up by taking your stuff anyway.
yeah, like here's my speed 5 8 power dive.
Right.
You know, like what are you going to do about that? And if the answer is cross out, chances are that's going to put us at range 3 afterward, depending on what the board state we're in. So have fun with that.
Sure. Yeah, fair point.
But yes, so From Hell is a powerful, dominant threat that you probably will not be permitted to set up, and that's fine. All right, so we have three sources of obscene amounts of power. Lest we forget this is also 7, unless you steal a copy, in which case it's 10.
Yep.
This is 7 unless you steal a copy, in which case it's 10. And then this is just 9 printed. I guess you could steal a copy and make it 12, but you probably won't. So I don't know how many characters we could have killed by now with just these cards, let alone the normal.
It's definitely more than one.
Yeah. You are not lacking for power. You have an absolutely ridiculous amount of power, and
Right.
it's awesome. So having talked about the 5 gauge ultra that you won't be allowed to play, let me point out what is actually your best ultra, and one of the dumbest ultras in the game. You can tell it's unfair because it costs 2 gauge.
2 gauge. Yep, that's a great start.
Yep. So for only 2 gauge, you get an on curve attack at range 4. It's 9 power, and at closer ranges, just in case, it has stun immunity. You also can't be pushed or pulled. And then it has a bunch of text that makes it bad, but it's not bad because you will hit them for 9 damage.
Right. So how are they hitting me back that would in such a way that would allow me to take twice as much damage?
Yeah, like so using a game I played earlier today, I played this and my opponent played I think EX dive, and I'm like, all right, cool, I'll take 12.
Right.
And that was a little disappointing. But that's fine. Like, what's 12 life? I was going to hit them for 9, and I can still hit them for 12 over the next couple of strikes. My only sorrow was that I was left at range 1, right? That's the actual reason I was sad.
Sure.
Because at range 1, I don't have very many of these threats to deploy. I'm really just reliant on normals.
Right.
But yeah, this is an incredibly dumb card that is extremely powerful and can often just, again, hit for massive damage. Things that it trades with are faster things that are typically still going to trade down. It is one of the funniest cross catchers in the unlikely event that your opponent is crossing from range 1 and you try to catch it. And the likelier events that they are crossing from range 2 to range 4, and you go, oh, okay. Well, here, let me kill across and also beat everything slower also, with the sole exception of Assault. Because you'll take 6 and you'll deal 9.
Sure.
It also has, of course, the notable text of you can't die.
Yeah, I was going to say, we talked about Super Skullman, and that's not the same. This is not the same as his boost, but not dying, Hakumen has it. Taisei has it. There's a couple effects in Exceed that if you can use them to not die so you can take another game action next turn, that's really good.
Yep. And this is part of why I go, okay, I took 12. Darn, that's a shame. Do I still have 2 gauge? All right, cool, we're fine.
Right.
Game's not over.
Right.
Um,
You have another copy of this, and they can't kill you even if they hit you for 12 again.
Yeah. I have seen in the incredibly cursed Baelkhor mirror match, the take 26. Okay, cool. Take 9.
Take that. Yeah, I won that trade.
Yeah, because my 26 was not 26 damage. I went from 5 life to 1.
Right.
Because I'm not going below 1. So you actually lost that trade.
Right.
So this gets better the lower you are in life, but it's also good early game because it will be online early game, and it just is a big old block of stats.
Sure. Most the similar dynamic. Speaking of our training dummy over here, Sagat and Ryu have a similar dynamic where like his Metsu Hadoken is amazing at 3 gauge. Sagat's Tiger Destruction is really, really good at 2 gauge. That informs our matchup quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
2 gauge for 9 damage is pretty crazy.
Yep, and there's a fair number of faster projectiles which try to deal with things like this by pushing or pulling them, which this just ignores.
Right, and or stunning them out, which it also ignores.
Yeah, oh yeah. So this will very often be dominant at range 4, and it's often pretty useful at range 2 when people are trying to not be at range 3, because they know range 3 kills them. They sometimes forget that ranges 2 and 4 can also kill them.
Sure. Even the sort of like more recent wave of like fast dive archetypes in your Stun Dipper, for example, often leaves you at range 2 anyway. So you're still gonna take a big chunk of damage from Desperate Gambit in that case.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, some do. Be wary of the ones that say hit push 1, because in that case, nope, they'll stay at range 1.
Sure, yeah, they move all the way in and they set range 2 that way. Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah. So don't necessarily use it in those cases. However, against those, you have this.
Oh yeah, this is pretty above curve.
Yeah, Ryu is glancing at this card jealously. Because he has to pay a gauge, although it's not quite the same stat line. This is on average a lot like Ryu Hadoken, because this is either 3 or 5 power.
Or 5 power, sure.
Yeah, unless you have a copy sealed, in which case, of course, it can go to 8s. Yes, all right. Speed 7, power 8, casual, ordinary. That said, I would almost never seal a copy of this. It is such a good stat line as printed. It really doesn't need the benefit of more power. If you're going to hit them and stun them, you have speed 5 things that will do that. You don't need a thing that's speed 6 or speed 7 in most cases.
Right.
If you just need a fast thing, then this is going to be your fast thing.
Sure.
And it's generally fast enough.
Sure. So these 2 cards, it sounds like, are cards that you wouldn't seal a copy of for bonus stats in most situations.
Correct.
Okay.
I might do it by accident, but we'll come back to that in a second. Go on.
I was going to say, this has come up a couple times now, that sealing, like, I know how to seal my opponent's cards. Clearly, Baelkhor also is sealing his own cards in some way.
Yes.
In order to enable these specials. I don't think we've actually seen a way to do that yet.
All right, well, let's talk about the 3 ways he has to do that. One is on this card, actually. Read this boost, please.
Yeah. So seal a card in your hand, gain 2 life, and to draw a card. Hey, life gain. That's another seal I can use later on. And seal a card from my hand is just, I'm going to put something that I've got already that I want to amp up. Maybe not a normal, because I could get those from my opponent.
Yeah.
but this is a way to get the rest of my kit to scary
Yeah,
damage numbers.
it's a little like a change cards one, but you're doing something more useful with that card, right? And because
Right.
you never actually change cards one, but it's going, okay, this card is not useful right now, but it'll be useful later, or this card is useful right now, but it'll be really useful later.
Right.
You know, let me go chuck either of these specials, for example, into my sealed area so that they turn into world-ending threats.
Right.
Um, and gain some life so that I am losing by slightly less, though I'm probably still losing. And they get the card back in return.
Sure. So one of the ways that you use the change cards action is by getting rid of something that is not particularly useful to you, like block, in order for the hopes of drawing into something that is very useful to you, like not block. Um,
Mhm.
and when you're doing something that's like a change cards action, but it's also like a power investment in the future. Um, like I would love to, ignoring the specials for a second, I would love to hit for 1 billion damage with sweep, but that would
Mhm.
require me to get rid of a copy of sweep, and sweep is a really good card. Um,
Yeah.
it sounds like most of the time I would like to the card I'm trying to power up is also one that would be good in the first place, because otherwise why am I bothering to power it up? Um,
Yeah. Yeah. You're not investing in your weakest options.
sure,
You're
exactly.
you're doubling down.
Yeah. So how do I kind of navigate that difficulty? Am I should I skew towards sealing good things anyway, or is there kind of a heuristic you use for that?
So generally, I don't want to use this early game. I want to use it later once I've seen what my sealed area is starting to look like. Right. So
Okay.
this is not me leading the way saying, yeah, my first sealed card is gonna be with this, and I'm gonna pick something out that I know I'm gonna want. I'm gonna use it when I'm like, all right, I need like one or two more sealed cards before I'm ready to exceed. They need to be this or that. Well, make it happen.
Yeah.
Um, because it lets me finish my curation. It's also valuable to have the threat of this attack available to you for a lot of the game because it's above curve at range 3 and 4, and also it exists at 5, which a lot of things don't.
Sure.
So it's very useful as an attack and as a threat. So keeping one copy alive to threaten your opponent is useful, and then boosting one copy in the mid to late game when you go, okay, I have this assault. It would be nice to play it. It'd be really nice to be able to play it with more power and more speed. Although you could probably EX it in that case, but um, I'm about to reshuffle to get my other copy of whatever down. I'll seal this copy.
I see.
Right.
Okay.
Um,
So I'll use this boost as a fixer for my sealed area, not as like a turbocharge for
yeah,
my sealed area.
a fixer or a finisher, where
Sure.
you go,
There you go.
I this is the last thing I needed. Let's put it in there, and now let's go.
Okay.
It is also occasionally useful to have 2 life in when you're at 1 life. The difference between 1 and 3 is relevant in some matchups for lower damage characters, or when you are specifically afraid of grasp, for example. Um, that is more niche. Generally, you should just view the life as being a thing that will help you regardless of the game state.
Sure. Yeah,
Um,
having more life. I mean, at minimum, I kind of made the joke that that's another seal from your
yeah,
character ability
that's the other
later.
thing.
But it means that your opponent needs to hit you again.
Yeah, like it helps you extend things a little longer, and since you get stronger the longer the game goes, for the most part, up until you decide the game is over and you kill them,
Right.
it's useful to be able to draw things out a bit more
Right. Okay.
because the faster the game ends, the likelier you are to lose.
Right. You also just mentioned that you're kind of trying to time your additions to your sealed area and maybe to your exceed mode around your reshuffle. This
Mhm.
card has a reshuffle, very rare. I don't think I've ever actually seen an explicit mention of the reshuffle action on a card itself before, or at least if I have, I can't remember it. Um, does Baelkhor kind of have a is it particularly important to time Baelkhor's reshuffle well to take advantage of effects like this?
It is particularly expected that he will reshuffle. He goes
Mm,
through his deck surprisingly quickly. Um, there is, well, maybe not surprisingly once you've seen some of his other card effects, but he is expected to reshuffle every game.
okay.
Um, and then he looks at the remaining cards in his deck, and he's sealed a bunch of things. There's a bunch of stuff in his gauge. His deck looks really thin, and then he laughs at the idea of running out of cards because he has so much power that that's not a threat.
Right, yeah. How
Um,
can you possibly go through that many cards again if your opponent only has 30 life?
yeah,
Right.
Like at minimum, you got this nice 5 power projectile that gets powered up just because you've reshuffled, and then you
Right.
start to look at what you're doing in late game, and it's like, yeah, no, I'm not going to run out of cards.
Right.
Um,
Does an automatic reshuffle count as using the reshuffle action?
uh, Glad you asked. Um,
There you
oh,
go.
I pulled the wrong one. Well, now you know there's another one. Anyway, um,
Got it.
yeah, that's more clarification than anything else, but it is intended to be if you have used your reshuffle.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I don't. Yeah, templating aside, back in season 1.
Yep.
But yes. So if you have reshuffled, this has +2 power, and as you can now see, if you have reshuffled, this has +2 speed.
Sure.
Which is interesting because this is a lot weirder of a breakpoint, right? So turning from 3 speed to 5 speed doesn't actually change any normal interactions, except if it can catch a dive that would have dove past it and probably missed.
Right.
If you initiate, it can catch an assault. So that's pretty strange. The notable feature of Desperate Might, which I seldom take advantage of, but is notable, is that with one Desperate Might sealed and your reshuffle active, it is a complete monster. The reason I don't take advantage of that very often is because that's true of a lot of things.
Yeah, it's on curve at 2 and deals 8 damage, but that is also true of basically every other card you've mentioned to me.
Yeah, like I have a lot of unreasonable things that I can do. I would rather do something else unreasonable with this card.
Right.
Which, since we're talking about reshuffle and him going through his deck very quickly, let's read the boost.
Looks at the boost, sure.
Yes, which is actually a not Warpath. That is the misprints in TTS. It is change of strategy. Yeah, he is. Anyway, image is wrong. Prince is right, and the other version is right.
Got it.
But yes, +2 power and +1 speed. Also, effectively, change cards 3.
Yeah.
Sorry, change cards 4. Really, it's like this plus 3 other cards go away. You get a fresh hand of 5 cards, and now you also have these stats in play.
Right.
Because to be clear, you want to pay this cost from hand because you're about to discard your hand.
You're discarding your hand anyway. Yeah, why wouldn't you?
Yeah, and you probably don't want to discard many cards with this effect. You're probably going to play this when you have about 3 force in hands.
Right.
Maybe you have 4 force in hands. Maybe you're going to pay 1 force from gauge, but probably not. Usually it's just okay. I want to change cards. This is an incredibly scary and effective way to change cards, and I will burn deeper into that deck.
Right. Okay.
Because
So
+2 power and +2 speed is a good boost.
yeah, no, like that's already awesome. Having an effective change cards on top of it makes it much easier to justify to yourself if you've got the right hand composition. If you don't like the rest of the cards in your hand, odds are you're going to like what you draw and do better anyway.
Yeah, to be clear, yeah, the function of this boost is not a cost. It is +2 power, +1 speed with upside.
Right.
Right. In most cases that you have this in your hand, you should be thinking about when and how you're going to play it to take advantage of that upside.
Right.
And that is a lot of stats to have upside on. Yeah, good boost. So there's one big dumb draw boost, and I use that every game. Like it effortlessly, it will become relevant, and I will use it.
Sure. Sure. And Desperate Might, it sounds like, is not a particularly good competitor for it.
Right. Like, it's a decent attack shape. It is kind of stable in a lot of cases where I need something that's kind of stable. I would often prefer to, like, lose the strike or wild swing or mitigate with the blocker of focus, even if I'm expecting them to leave or to hit me from range, and then play this boost.
Right.
And say, okay, I lost that strike. I'll win the next strike. Good deal. Like you're expecting to lose a lot of the strikes that you don't win, which sounds a little odd to say, right? But it's I'm trying to characterize that throughout early game, you're not going to be doing too hot, and that's fine. You don't need to. You're going to kill them later.
Sure.
Warpath is a good boost at any points during the game, and it's a decent way to extend early game when you go, okay, they are pressuring me. Back off. Here,
Right.
I have stats you can't deal with. Like, this strike is a lot scarier for you than it was a minute ago. Let me catch my breath and keep building. Mm-hmm.
Got it.
The more desperate, the actual Warpath, the more desperate boost, which I almost never use, but is usable, is spend life to draw cards. If you are out of hands, but you have life, then you can get a fresh hands. Note that if this is literally your last card, 6 life will draw you a full hand of 7 because you draw for end of turn. Um, I don't use this for the main reason that I have enough draw elsewhere, and also it's on Accursed Gaze, and I really like the stack. So it's pretty uncommon that I need to use this. I
Right.
have occasionally used it.
It seems pretty easy, as you've mentioned a couple times, to get Accursed Gaze to the point where it's hitting for ultra damage anyway. Even without sealing the other copy of it, just by having a bunch of stuff from other sources. And you're also spending a lot of life anyway, and you probably don't need the help for another life sink.
Yeah, I don't really want to give my opponent 5 life when I'm already planning on handing them like 12.
Right. Over the course of the game from your character ability.
Yeah. Character ability or just bad trades from
Right, yeah,
like,
fair.
because it is entirely okay for you to say, all right, my grasp hit their sweep, I'll take 8. Like that's character ability, but also you kind of won that in that you got their sweep.
Right.
Like your assault into their focus wins, your assault into their sweep wins, your grasp into their sweep doesn't lose by very much.
Arguably, yeah, it's close.
Like you're spending a massive amount of life, but the reward you're getting is also going to be massive. It's just you have to actually survive long enough to get there.
Right. Okay.
And this boost, I think, doesn't usually help you with that, but it might well be that, you'll die much faster, especially against characters who can advantage chain, for example, if you have no hand and you're just wild swinging, because you're a terrible wild swinger.
Yeah, I was going to say, with all of these like non-overlapping range bands and no movement, you can't really pick your spots anyway.
Yeah. You also
none of these are going to do well.
If you thought you could wild swing, then as soon as this comes out,
right,
you will remember why you don't.
Right.
Because this loses to many things, and it loses devastatingly. Right. It at range 3 they can dive and you take 9. If they can cross and you take 7. Even grasp, it trades even. Right, like you take 7, hit for 7. So it's a slow that doesn't trade up. Its job is to actually be just a mid speed with guard, but the guard is a detriment. Right, this card would be better if it had no guard, because then you would get stuns and take less damage.
You would take the hit from the opponent's attack, and if it was a fast attack, cool, you only took 3 damage.
Yeah, and if they didn't play a fast attack, then it does what you want, and it's going to hit something slow and presumably stun it.
Right.
So this guard is here to ruin your day, and it will. So I'm very cautious wild swinging if this is still in my deck. I'm still willing to do it, but man, you might just be willing to say, all right, I guess I'll wild swing, and I'm going to spend 4 extra life on a strike at some point.
Right.
Like, I feel I was going to lose the strike either way. Was this worth it? Depends.
Right.
If you're going to have to wild swing again because the opponent is advantage chaining you and has you in a bad position, or just because they have you in a bad position, you have no resources, then okay, you don't have a choice.
Maybe this is the compelling use case for Warpath. Because at that point, you've described a situation where we've already spent more than 6 life over a couple of my opponent's strikes.
Yeah, like that's the kind of case where you need to not be wild swinging Blade of Souls. You need to have options in hand that you can play through. Mostly, you want to have normals in that case.
Right, sure, because you can use those to play the game of Exceed that you're going to be forced to play until you can play Baelkhor Exceed.
Yeah, and normals are very stable at range 1, right? Block, focus, sweep, grasp. Especially block and focus, you're just like, all right, these have armor. I am happy to extend my timeline. Sure. Yeah, take less damage, spend a little less life because I'm spending it elsewhere. Okay. And focus often trades, which is nice because 7 power focus is pretty good.
Yes.
But yeah, all right. As for this boost, this I boost a lot, but it is a little bit risky. So, you seal 2 from the top of your deck, which means 2, cards that you are not selecting. You would prefer, generally, that these are, some normal that you don't already have sealed, some special you don't already have sealed. The risk is, I seal 2 copies of my own something. Right. That's the worst thing that can happen. Stealing ultras is also usually bad. From Hell does not need the stats. Desperate Gambit does not need the stats, so it can use them. Making that speed 5 does actually matter. Power 12, not so much. But it is a ridiculous acceleration boost, and it is of course also adding 2 cards from hand to gauge. Which, yeah, you are effectively it's gain 2 gauge and 2 transforms if we're talking in season 2 terms, and that's an absolutely insane boost.
That's
it's
crazy.
Just that you need to be aware of the drawback because it's costing 2 cards from hands, and there's no guarantee the seals will be great. So this is actually in counter to this. This is the boost I would rather use early, where I
Okay.
say, let me throw 2 random things in my sealed area, and then based on what I see there, I can now make more decisions about how to use my other resources and how to spend other things.
Right. So this is the finisher. This is the turbocharger that I alluded to a second ago.
Yep.
That like this is how you'll start your
Yeah.
sealing spree.
Yes. This
Okay.
this kicks things into gear. And then adding 2 cards from hand to gauge is obviously good for you, but it is a real cost because you're throwing 3 cards away this turn. You're going to
Right.
be slightly weakened in the short term.
Right.
There you go. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm now down a bunch of cards. So this is often kind of what I would. This is how I'll use. I'll use this as my Oki tool. I'll say I'm ahead. I've won. My opponent is in a bad position. Cool. I will not strike into them at range 3. I will instead do this, and then they will get to change the board state, and then now I'm behind. But not by much because I got to do this.
Right. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Um,
Makes sense.
so I okay, well, sorry, just make it for posterity, right? What I mean
Definitely.
is when you are in advantage states, you can press your advantage, or you can capitalize on it. Or sorry, what am I trying to say? You can trade it in for some kind of value. One way to trade it in is to say, I'm going to strike in my advantage state, and my opponent is going to lose a bunch of life, and that's great. Cool, do that. Many characters have other ways to trade it in, and by default, everybody has one way, which is prepare, where you go,
Sure.
okay, I will let my opponent have the turn and the ability to change the game state and do whatever they want, and say, all right, I'm easing off my pressure, but in return, I get some resources.
Right.
Um, so this is if I'm already in a good state, I do this, and now my opponent can change the position that we're in, but I got a bunch of resources. That's
Right.
what I was trying to do.
Right. And I cannot remember what lesson it was that you explained this to me in these terms, D, but it's always stuck with me that you mentioned Tsubaki from Blaze Blue.
Mhm.
Gets a knockdown, and rather than and hence the term Oki, right? That's why we're calling
Yeah.
it this.
Okay.
Um, rather than get a safe jump set up into a follow up, charges her thing, so that
Yeah.
she can make use of whatever resource advantage that gives her later on.
Yep. Yeah,
Okay.
exactly. So this is, in my view, should be used very much like that. I would
Okay.
rather not use this when I'm in a very bad position, because I'm burning resources out of my hand that I may well need to defend with, right? Like
Right.
if I'm in a bad position, I probably need my resources where they are accessible to me and not where they are going to be used by something later.
Right.
Though if that bad position is that I have, 3 gauge from range 3, well, this makes it not a bad position anymore.
Yeah, that's fair.
Mhm.
And so I know that with the prepare as Oki uh, tech, you'll do it when you're very far ahead. You will do that when you're very far behind because hey, that's going to help mitigate that resource disadvantage that you're at. When you
Mhm.
won't do it is when you're in like a pretty good neutral position and would rather be using the resources in your hand to win neutral, so you can do it then.
Yeah,
Is that also true of this? That like you don't want to get yourself into a bad position by using it. You'll get yourself
exactly.
into a decent. You'll fall from a good position to a decent position by using it instead.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
If we're standing at neutral, then I could give my opponent the advantage by boosting this, or I can try to take advantage by winning the next strike or setting up with a boost or doing something else. Um, and then, when winning the next strike can certainly happen when I have tools like this,
Right.
or tools like this, where I go, okay, if you played a fast thing, I will outspeed and stun it. If you played a slow thing, I will outspeed and stun it.
Right.
I just have to call it right. Um, that's the kind of case where you go, yeah, I want to strike on defense. Great. So now I have a turn to do whatever I want. This is a great thing to do.
Sure.
Giving
Makes
up the
sense.
turn to do it when you're not particularly advantaged is way more dangerous because yeah, you're throwing your hand away and saying, I really believe that what few cards I'm keeping are good enough.
Right.
And if they are, they
Or
are.
I just really really don't feel pressured at all by whatever my opponent's doing.
Yeah. Like
Okay.
maybe you kept EX Assault, maybe you kept Cross in your at range 3 against somebody who does not have projectiles. You're like, all right, this is fine.
Right.
That's okay. That's viable. But that's still a case where you will then have to be rebuilding slowly afterwards.
Sure. Sure. Makes sense.
So
Before we move on from this card, you mentioned Blade of Souls making your wild swings incredibly dangerous. Um, are you striking with this from hand, or is it just like not a very? I know that sometimes Red Horizon characters have just like cards that are bad.
yeah, so this is the best stat line I never want to play.
Yeah.
Right? Like that this is such a good stat line. But like the times that I'm willing to play this are when I have the hard read, and I often still regret it. Earlier today, I played Blade of Souls. I think it was actually EX Blade of Souls, and I stunned yeah, it was EX Blade of Souls, and I stunned a focus. And I'm not sure if I won that strike.
Yeah, that's. I mean, you are a documented aficionado of 7 and 8 power attacks. I guess hence Baelkhor.
Mhm.
Hence why you're
Yeah,
doing this lesson.
yeah. Look at this guy. Yeah,
Yeah, but it would be like if somebody had a special that was like EX Assault with a downside, or somebody who had amazing offensive wild swings with a downside, and the downside was so bad that you D didn't want to play it.
yeah. I would. I'm like, yeah. I'll still do it sometimes, but I think it's a mistake. It's just that I
Right.
can't resist the drug.
Right. Yeah.
I'm like, oh,
It's because you have a problem
yeah.
with your love of
I
those
I
particular.
I I picked up those two Blades of Souls and was like, this is probably a mistake, but I can't resist, and I stunned that focus. But
Right.
I sure did spin both copies of Endless Power.
Right. Yeah.
Ugh.
Okay. So
And
first
I
order
could
of
have
prop,
boosted one and then added the other one to my gauge. That would get rid of both of them. That'd be great. Anyway,
and then you could start wild swinging.
yeah.
Well,
Ugh.
but maybe not. So first order approximation. It sounds like just ignore that this card exists, or rather, don't play this card as an attack most of the time. Um,
Yes. Be very
and
aware it exists so that you don't wild swing
you don't wild
carelessly.
swing it exactly. Okay,
Hmm.
that makes sense. Where to next?
Yeah. All right. So we'll now go to a curious pair of boosts. Um, and they are a pair. These two here. Um, Face of Fear and Dark Insight. +3 power at the start of your next turn. Add this to gauge and draw a card. +3
Okay.
speed at the start of your next turn. Add this to gauge and draw a card. They both cost force, but they draw a card in return. So these actually are kind of parallel to Yuzuriha's Come At Me.
Yeah.
And I think they actually directly parallel Mole Knight's Come At Me. I need to check. Don't remember. But yeah,
That sounds
the
right.
idea basically being, I have such overwhelming stats that I'm confident you're not willing to strike me.
Right.
And if you do, you are taking your life into your own hands. Like, what is your plan here? Yeah, okay. It is literally this.
Yep.
Same cost, same boost. But yeah, so it's a change cards one, sort of, because you are expecting the opponent not to strike into it. So you're expecting to get the draw. And then it is a key charge.
Right.
Right. So you're building a gauge and you're doing a change cards one at the same time. Don't do this if you don't have some plan, unless you are extremely confident that your opponent will respect it. You want to have a payout, right? Like, you don't want to do this and the opponent strikes and you're like, oh, guess I lose.
Right.
Like, that was probably a bad idea.
Because this is a threat, right? But I mean,
Mhm.
the thing that you say on many of these lessons is that power is the threat that speed confirms. It strikes me that there's probably a reason that this one is on an ultra boost. That you can
Mhm.
probably make use of
You
this
have
one.
power.
Right. You can
For
probably
once
make
you have
use of this
speed,
one
you can
without a plan
whatever
because
you want.
the rest of your kit can be the plan.
Yes. But this one, it's like, okay, do you have your speed 6 that now suddenly becomes 8 power?
Right. Do you have an EX
Like, do
attack?
you have an EX Accursed Gaze that's going to stun the worlds?
Right.
Something that says, I'm confident I will confirm this, so it's not just a waste of resources to put it out. Like this is a fun thing to do in neutral, but it's not necessarily an advantage in neutral. You already need to be pretty confident in your position to use it.
Right.
Dark Insight, conversely, is I'm going to keep my opponent off my back, because most people will not strike in a Dark Insight, because most people will in fact look at Baelkhor's kit and say, oh, I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, I don't want to take that much damage.
Yeah.
I'll just let you have gauge and that's okay.
Yeah. That said, I'm not thrilled to do that because it cost me Desperate Gambit, which is a fantastic card.
Right.
Like, I'm kind of expecting that I'll just get to hit with Desperate Gambit at some point if I want to. Yeah, Dark Insight is, I don't have any other gauge generation, I'm desperate for gauge, or they have speed and I need them off of me so that I have time to draw into something else. But honestly, if they have some sort of advantage over you and you're trying to push them off of you or deal with it in some way, you kind of probably wanted to have Desperate Gambit as an attack.
Right.
It's useful
Sure.
for a lot of those situations, right? Like, they have a +4 speed spike that you're staring down the barrel of and go, okay, I'll just play this.
Yeah, I'm okay to take that trade.
Yeah. Like, that's pretty reasonable. You take 10, they take 9. But they spent 4 speed boosts and you spent,
and
one
your
gauge.
Baelkhor, and that 9 damage is sort of like middling for what you can do.
Yeah, that 9 damage is good. Like that's you may have paid a little bit more than you usually would for it, but it's a
Right.
good amount of damage.
Right. Okay.
Um, so yeah, uh, the Dark Insight is a emergency escape for situations where Desperate Gambit is not the escape that it needs to be, or if you actually do not have 2 gauge. Right.
Okay.
That's the actual case for it, is when you have 1 or fewer gauge, are in mid to late game, desperately need to survive some sort of dangerous situation, and go, okay, well, I guess I do this to keep them off of me for a turn.
Right.
Um, but as you can probably guess from that description, it's not a very common situation.
Okay.
Like
So
there's
this will keep them off of you for a turn. That it will happen. But
almost
if
always, yeah.
if they're in a situation where they have a really threatening boost, they're like, okay, I prep, and then your thing goes away, and I still have the very threatening
Yeah.
boost.
Now they're back on you. Yeah.
Right.
Like
Okay.
you need to make that one turn needs to be very relevant.
Okay.
You know. Um the case of they how they, what's a good example? I don't know. Big Hand Guile, has 21 cards in hands.
Right.
And you go, well, I think he's gonna strike enemy. Let's make his life much, much harder.
Right. Yeah. Pick the cards you want to save, um, and ditch the rest of your hand. Or you're up against a Blaze Blue character on the last turn of their overdrive.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Blaze Character and Overdrive is a good example where it's like, oh, they desperately want to strike every turn. Let's make this hard.
Right.
Um, like they will, it will be much harder for them to actually win the strike, but they really want to strike because otherwise they probably wasted their overdrive. At least
Sure.
for most of them.
Sure. Okay. Makes sense. And similar considerations for this power boost, but uh, more of a, you're more willing to do this because, rather, you mentioned to have a plan when you're doing this, but
Yeah.
also it's
Have a
not on
plan so
Desperate
it's not a
Gambit.
waste, but it's not on Desperate Gambit. Yeah. It's
Right.
like, yeah, you're giving up your 7 power special. One of them.
Right.
Um,
And this one costs you life.
This one costs life, and actually the other one can be 8s depending. But if you get that point, you
Right.
won't always seal 7 cards, but it's pretty common. You should expect to seal at least 5 any given game, but I
Sure.
think you will usually be sealing 7, sometimes more. And that's because this boost exists. So
Right.
that's 2. This boost exists. That's 3, maybe 4. Cool. Hit them at least once and have them play a card that you want to seal. Like
Right.
you'll get to 5 very consistently.
Right.
Whether you get to 7 is probably whether you are taking a lot of trades with their normals or whether you boosted it twice.
Right. So when you describe it that way, D, it helps kind of clarify what the shape of Baelkhor's game plan really looks like. I was comparing it in my head to like what other sealing characters like to do, like Minato, for example. He's kind of looking for like a copy of everything. Um, Baelkhor uh, is looking
That's your
for,
dream, but you're not going to get it.
yeah, you're never going to get that, and you don't need to because you're hitting so hard.
Yeah,
Baelkhor is looking for a couple of key things, and then because those things are now so important to him, he's going to cater the rest of his game plan around confirming those couple of things.
right. So it's like, cool. I sealed a sweep. If I still have 2 sweeps, and my opponent has my opponent's sweep is in my sealed area. Let's see. Okay, I can play a sweep, an EX sweep that doesn't lose to dive and hits for 10.
Right.
Cool. Or I can just play it twice and lose to sweep one, or lose to dive once and then murder them the other time. I sealed an assault. Cool. At some point, I'm going to be playing a big dumb assault, which means I probably want to also have a grasper of focus, so I have a nice range 1 follow up.
Something to follow up. Yeah. So you can kind of like you've said this a couple times, but like the beginnings of your sealed area are going to start. You're going to start tailoring the rest of your game plan around that,
Mm-hmm.
rather than going for coverage and over sealing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. You don't. You should not be trying too hard to get a copy of everything in your sealed area, especially the block. That doesn't really exist.
Right.
You should be trying to make impactful changes to your sealed area. If you're down 2 foci, or sorry, if you have just reshuffled and you're down both copies of something, there is no reason for you to seal the opponent's copy of that unless you are exactly concerned about exactly this upgrade.
Right.
And
And
you're not there
and
yet.
you probably aren't most of the time.
Yeah, that is
Right.
very unlikely. Like if you have one engage, one in discard, you probably also don't care about sealing that particular normal where you go, well, I'm not going to be seeing that in a minute. Also, I might want to be might want to be holding my gauge so I can threaten this big dumb ultra.
Right.
Um, but
So
then again, that might be the one gauge you spend when you exceed.
So I think you do need a little bit more to start the engine.
Mm.
So I think at this point we've talked about every attack and every boost except for this one.
Yeah.
It's probably worth, we'll get into the normals in a second, but like, do you have a rough heuristic about like what your priorities would be when you're sealing things? Um, I know that part of it's not going to be up to you, but you're looking for. Okay. Throws block away. Yeah.
Yeah. Let me just get that off the table.
Right.
Um, so I think these are all pretty comparable. They become, similar amounts of unbeatable. They're not actually unbeatable, except that dive is often on curve, 8
Right.
power, and dodges the, I guess, EX
Right.
focus the opponent played. I don't know.
But it really is worth stating that like characters who are hitting with these kinds of stats are either usually doing them face up or putting a huge amount of resources into them. These are still mix-ups, right? They're not. They have to know that this particular thing is coming to play that EX focus to deal with it anyway.
Mhm. Yeah. So of the specials, right, I value sealing Storm of Souls because it needs more power in order to stun focus.
Right.
Right. Like starting at 7 is just not enough power. Like your Baelkhor, come on.
Sure.
Like the reason I still value Assault this highly is because you may be able to EX it. If not, even so, with Warpath, that's going to hit a really dumb breakpoint. You are not unlikely to have an Assault with the Warpath, and then Advantage is
Right.
a wonderful thing to have, even though you don't like range 1 very much. So yeah, but yeah, Storm of Souls needs it. Accursed Gaze doesn't. That's why I have Accursed Gaze as a lower tier priority. Like this card you can play as printed and it's completely insane. So making it more insane is great, but not essential.
Sure.
If I can play 2 copies of this, then I'm even happier. So I often won't seal an Accursed Gaze. I will prefer not to seal an Accursed Gaze.
Right.
I still want to not be wasting time. If I have this in hands and planning on using it because 1 copy is still in my deck, and I don't want to throw away my second copy, and I'm in a pretty good place in neutral. I'm like, all right, let's gain some life, let's seal something, let's move my engine forward. And my hand is like 3 ultras in this. Sure, I seal the Accursed Gaze.
You'll go with it, sure.
Yeah, like that's fine. But yeah, I do not care about sealing the other specials. I plan to boost this one. I plan to strike or boost with this one. And I plan to avoid this one like the plague or boost it.
Right.
But yeah, like this is Blade of Souls is a card that I'm happy to add from hand to gauge. Sometimes I'll seal it just so I won't see the other copy in my reshuffle. Like just go away.
That's the Baelkhor tech right there. That's how you know you play Baelkhor. If you're stacking not to hit with Blade of Souls, but to not have another copy of Blade of Souls.
Yeah, that is not something I would generally recommend because it kind of implies that you like had it in hand and then you decided to get rid of it instead of boosting it. But
right.
Same story as before. It's like, okay, well, if I've got a hand of ultras and this, and I want to play this boost, okay, sure, Blade of Souls goes away.
Right.
Because I'm not going to add 2 ultras to my gauge for the sake of this boost. I would rather have the ultras.
Sure. Yeah, you boost endless power, and the other copy of Blade of Souls comes up, and you're like, okay, now I can wild swing a little bit more freely.
Yep, I'm happy when that happens.
Got it. Okay.
I'm sad when block comes up.
Right. And for Desperate Might, this is kind of like your other sort of Red Horizon dump stat card. This is not it's not like Fusion Bane or something, but it's not like an all-star card that you're really looking to hit with anyway. You don't particularly care when it gets sealed.
Yeah, like I think it's a very good sealed card, but I think I would rather seal anything else and then boost this.
Sure. Yeah. This boost seems nuts.
This boost is insane.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And then down here in sort of this area, you've mentioned Sweep as being a particularly amazing sealing target a couple of times, but also Sweep is good on its own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, that's mainly because Sweep is just good, right?
Right.
Like, and sealing my opponent's Sweep has the double advantage of now they have 1 fewer copy of Sweep total.
Sure. Yeah. So if your opponent plays sweep into you and you can steal yours, I'm sorry, steal theirs, maybe it's up here now.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, if
if
you
we're
both
talking
play sweep, then you take 8 and they don't have that sweep anymore.
right, if we're talking about sealing your own cards, maybe this applies more. But when you're sealing your opponent's cards, you're looking to get rid of one of their strongest cards, and sweep might be one of them.
Yeah. And similar story with focus, right? Where it's okay, this is just a fantastic card, numerically great. May occasionally cause them to not be stunned by something that you play, which is unacceptable. You can't have that happen. So
Sure.
getting rid of a focus for their late game, because you expect to reshuffle every game. Opponent might not.
Right.
You know, you're probably going to get there faster than them. They might have a card go down, and not the card is down for the rest of the game because they don't reshuffle. But
Right.
in the event they do, depriving them of retrieving that is pretty viable. Your own copy of Cross is notable for being your main source of advance,
of
right?
movement, sure.
Yeah, you care a lot about that. Like that's a neutral movement tool. Assault and Dive, of course, have attacks with movement, and that's useful. But sealing one copy of Dive or Assault makes the other copy that much more reliable. Cross was already pretty reliable, so I usually won't seal my copy of Cross unless I'm in a matchup where I just don't expect the opponent to ever cause range issues, right? Somebody else who likes ranges 2 to 3 and is not inclined to force their way out of them, and we're just going to slug it out. Okay, sure. That's the case where I'll seal across, and now I have a 1, 2, 6, 7. Like neats, but yeah, still not really happy about it. Spike, I am likelier to use as defend or to seal and then play a speed 4 spike. But really, it only benefits from the speed because the power doesn't matter for breakpoints or for killing the opponent. That can be useful.
Sure. Yeah, you do like to kill your opponent if given the opportunity.
Yeah, but you trust that will happen, so Spike doesn't have to be the thing that does it.
Right, sure.
And then Focus, I am not sealing my own Focus unless I have no other choice, basically. But it is it is still strong when sealed, and I'll happily seal my opponent's Focus.
Sure. Okay. So it sounds like with all of that said, the tier list is looking something like if we're talking about our own cards.
I meant using your sealing effects to voluntarily seal things from your side.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
It sounds like it's something like this, and then maybe altars near the bottom as well.
Oh yeah. That probably goes alongside Focus. And that goes above Block.
Right. Where is Block? Block's down here. Okay.
Block is gone. Doesn't exist. We don't need it.
Okay.
But yeah, like these are such valuable tools. Well, these are such valuable tools that these are such valuable tools that I don't really want to give them up just to buff the attacks that in some cases I wasn't planning on using in the first place.
Sure.
Or when I was planning on using them, they were strong enough already.
They were already quite good. Yeah. Okay.
So stealing these, not strictly a waste, but not really my priority. And then sealing a Focus instead of playing it feels pretty bad.
Right.
You know, not completely unwilling. There is, however, a case where for all of these normals that I've talked about, where I'm like, yeah, I don't really want to seal my own copy voluntarily, especially Focus, I am still willing to seal one of my copies if it will seal both of the opponent's copies. Read this boost, please.
Yeah, excellent segue. I am
a very important one, because this is where I'm talking, you know, out of both sides of my mouth with regard to how I care about sealing my cards, because I'm like, yeah, I want to play Focus. Also, I think Focus is really good to seal.
Right.
So why would I seal my own Focus instead of just sealing the opponent's focuses? Well, I would seal my own Focus to seal both of their foci and then also play my own Focus later, so that I get to play one Focus and they get to play 0.
Right. So seal a card in your hand, seal all copies of that card in your opponent's hand, deck, gauge, and discard.
Yes. I love this boost. It is a phenomenal boost. It has 2 very obvious use cases, but I will talk about them specifically.
Sure.
The first being, hey, my opponent has, I don't know, a card with reading on it. Now they don't get to play with reading this game.
Yeah, nobody gets reading.
Yeah, well, no, I get one.
You get one reading. But you might want to play the Focus because you're Baelkhor.
But I might want to play the Focus because they're out of
They
buffs,
get none.
They get none.
Okay.
You know, maybe they have a card that discards boosts, and I've got some pretty good boosts, like the +2, +1, and then also just my normal boosts are pretty good.
Right.
Cool. Remove it. You know, their tech hits or their tech or their ukemi, it's gone. Doesn't
Right.
exist. You don't have that. Or you're just like, hey, I am sure concerned about them crossing out of my speed fives. All right, no crosses for anyone. I get one, you get none.
Okay.
No sweeps for you. You were concerned about trading down on life a lot, right? Well, sweep is really good at being something that you trade down when they play it, so just tell them they can't play it. Um, yeah, the key problem with this being that it costs you a sweep, and that's kind of sad.
Right.
But yeah,
Right.
like sweep and focus are pretty good go-tos here because they tend to have uh, sometimes very good boosts, sometimes or always very good attacks, sometimes very good boosts, and you are concerned about the amount of life that these will cause you to lose, and
Right.
because you're already losing a lot of life, you're just expecting to hemorrhage life. You go, well, now I eat one fewer sweep in the game. That's great. Um, you can also, if you feel like it, say, actually, I think we're going to be playing at range 1 late in the game because they know how to play against Baelkhor. Let me get rid of all of their grasps forever so
Sure.
that I can play my big dumb speed 6 assault at range 1. And it doesn't lose to grasp because grasp doesn't exist anymore.
Right. So this is, without even getting into the other use cases of this is a much stronger denial tool than what's
Yes.
on your character ability.
Yes. Like your character ability has some conditions you have to meet. This is you have a normal in your hands, and it's
Yeah.
a normal that you actually want to seal and to
Right.
remove from the opponent's game.
Right. How good? Uh, so you mentioned that like focus is not something that you would like to. Yeah, you said you were talking out of both sides of your mouth about this. Um,
Right.
Focus is something that you
It's a
would
great
rather
thing to
not
have sealed.
seal.
It's not a thing I want to seal.
Right. But if you have Apocalypse Seal in your hand, you're, you'll do it to deny them readings if you need them, if you need to deny readings, or focus if you need them, if you need to deny focus.
Yeah, like I can look at focus and be like, okay, if they have no foci ever, that's a very good attack that I just don't have to worry about,
Right.
right? And also my Storm of Souls now stuns. They're slow because they only have sweep.
Right.
Um,
Sure.
uh, like I lose one focus of value, they lose two. That that's pretty good considering the expected value of playing focus or sweep. Um, it is meaningful that I'm giving one up. It is certainly meaningful that I'm spending a turn and throwing an ultra away. Although typically, if I'm doing it in this way that I'm describing, this is early game. It is
Definitely.
not uncommon for me to do this in turn 1.
Yeah. It seems like I mean very similar actually to your let's see what falls out into my sealed area when I play my turbocharger boost.
Yeah,
This can impact the cadence of the rest of the game in a way that you will then be able to react to.
yeah, yeah. Like the ideal order is that you see what goes into your sealed area first, so that you don't do something redundant, right?
Sure.
You don't want to be like, all right, I seal an assault from my hands, and then next turn I flip an assault and it's sealed, and now there's just no assaults ever. I'm like, oh,
Right. Yeah.
I
No
want to
one
use
gets
that.
assault.
Um, like that's acceptable, but you would prefer to do it in the other order. You prefer to look
Definitely.
at that sealed area and be like, oh, I don't need to seal my assaults unless I
Right.
feel very strongly about the opponent having it, but I probably don't.
Right.
Um, but yes, and then Apocalypse Seal to say I'm going to just ruin my opponent's day and say you were relying on this foundational neutral tool, sweep slash light, focus slash reading. Well, that's more of a set player or sorry, dismantling tool than it is neutral. It's like, yeah, okay, you don't have that. It's
Right.
gone.
Am I? So you mentioned that From Hell is probably not something that is I'm actually going to play in a real game as Baelkhor. Is it something that I need to threaten, or can I happily play Apocalypse Seal twice?
Once you're like at 3 or more gauge, you should probably be considering holding a copy of rounds,
Okay.
or at least just like moving toward your reshuffle a little more aggressively.
Right.
Like you'll probably play this twice and then still be able to threaten it.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah, you're going to reshuffle. You're not going to seal this card unless it gets sealed randomly. You're
Yeah,
going to have it again.
yeah. So like it's if you're in the position where you're about to reach 5 gauge and your opponent seems to be hanging out around range 3, probably hold it. Just in case. In most cases, it's fine to just boost it and then expect that you'll draw it post reshuffle.
Right. Right. Okay.
Which, yeah, so notably, in that case, we're talking about mid game, where you go, oh, now the case that I most care about is when they have a normal in their gauge. Because this can burn 1 or 2 gauge from the opponent's gauge.
Sure.
The opponent loses a gauge or 2, and you permanently upgrade your remaining copy of a card is a very good effect.
Right. So
That is,
I
expected to be more situational. But
I feel like one of the most common pairs of normals that I see in a gauge is block block, right? Maybe don't do that,
don't do
but
that.
hey, if they hit with a couple of grasps or a couple of crosses or
Like,
something, absolutely you will steal 2 gauge.
like here, yeah, there are some cards that are very likely to end up in the gauge. Um, and and to be fair, even if this just takes 1 gauge away, that's still good,
Sure,
right? It is best if you haven't seen the other copies, so that it might be in their hands, but you're not really expecting this to take a card from hands. You are in mid game, you are playing it because you need to deprive them of an option that matters in whatever state you're in, or because you see it will destroy some gauge.
right.
Um, in early game, you're playing it for the long term value. Um, yeah, but yeah, it is definitely viable to play this when the opponent is near reshuffle and you go, oh, they still have both copies of X. Let me just destroy them.
Sure.
They're gone.
Okay.
Um, Dramatically thinning their remaining toolkit. Excuse me.
And
Here.
I mean, once we hit that mid game state, I've already have some things sealed. As we've mentioned a couple times, I'm starting to curate the rest of my game plan around what I need to hit to end the game. This is that curation tool in that case.
Yeah,
Or
it
one of them.
is. It is one of them.
Yeah.
It's the one that does double duty, right? So well, not that one. Excuse me. Uh, this provides a little bit of life, right? It provides a little mitigation. You get a card back, you get a little life.
Right.
It's relatively easy to use as like I need this thing, because I need to play the other copy of this thing.
Right.
If you have 2 copies, then you can do this. The opponent has no copies now, which again, at that point, you could just play the EX. So you're probably playing this because you actually care about removing their copies from the game. Oh yeah. Also, notably, if you're already in Exceed mode, either of these can provide you a significant benefit. Specifically when you are near the bottom of your deck, about to reshuffle, going, okay, I will redraw my other copy. Let me seal this so that the other copy, when I redraw it, is extremely dumb.
Sure. Yeah,
But yeah,
it can also function as a fixer for your sealed area on top of the obvious denial potential.
but yeah, you
Okay.
want the denial. Yeah, like this is your fixer. This one provides you a significant benefit, and you should be very aware of making taking advantage of that benefit. It's not your go-to fixer because you also care about it depriving the opponent of some value.
Right.
You
And
are
if you
thinking
do
as
it
much
all at
about
once,
that.
awesome. Do it all at once.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
you are thinking mostly about what do I want my opponent to have no copies of,
Right.
and also my remaining copy is going to be buff.
Right.
Whereas this is I
And
need my remaining copy to be buff.
and that question of what do I not want my opponent to have is also going towards that late game uh, molding your game plan, right? Like
Yes.
if what they have that can stop this guy with some cards in his sealed area is reading, you can't have reading anymore, and that will enable me to kill you with all of these cards.
Yep.
Got it.
Yeah. Sometimes you can get rid of blocks. Mostly that's if it gets 2 gauge out of them, and if parry is printed on block.
Right.
Because actually parry is a pretty decent answer to your biggest dumbest threats. They go, oh well, I'm sure not going to be trying to block 13 because it will destroy all of my resources. Notwithstanding that the anecdote I mentioned earlier, this actually did happen where somebody blocked 2 of my 4 or 5 payouts. But like, there's a reason that they couldn't keep doing that.
Right.
But yeah, parry is a good way to smack down Desperate Gambit, to try to kill Baelkhor, or to say From Hell is just not actually a threat anymore because he boosted 1 and now he has the other one. So getting rid of parry is defensible. I just also think it's the worst option by far, unless you're getting rid of 2 gauge at the same time.
Right. So get rid of reading. Get rid of the cross that you know that they have because you didn't get to seal the assault, but you did get to seal dive. Okay. Things like that.
Things like that.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the decision of like how you use these based on the results of this and based on how various strikes play out because of your basic ability is kind of the experience of solving the puzzle of Baelkhor strategy every game.
Right.
Like you should not expect it to play out exactly the same any given game. You should be expecting to have to play dynamically, where you go, oh, this is a game where I thought I was going to seal sweep, but instead I'm going to seal spike because they've dropped their speed 5s early, and I think I can get a really cool, speed 4 spike online that will just destroy them.
Sure.
like expect to need to play dynamically in that regard.
Right.
The part of
Because
your game plan that is by far the most static is the part where you have to put yourself somewhere on the board and you're bad at doing that.
right. Right. So everything that you're doing is going to be strong in the late game because you're Baelkhor and that's what you do. But uh, it is possible to misallocate your resources and wind up making shapes you don't need to deal with the threats that your opponents have left, or getting rid of threats that your opponent has that you don't need to get rid of. So getting better at Baelkhor and making sure that you are efficiently winning the game with the couple of tools that you're going to need to win it is going to be about like tailoring that experience, that dying experience to suit your opponent's preferences. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, that sounds really fun, actually.
Yeah, I love Baelkhor. I think he's both like overwhelming in how he appears on the board, where he's just starts throwing around numbers that are 8 and higher,
Right.
And also like deceptively interesting.
Yeah,
because they made neutral hard, but dear lord, stats.
Right. Yeah, and there are a lot of neutral problems that stats can just answer.
Yeah. So he is. I'm not going to go into a whole thing, but in some senses, I think it could be argued Baelkhor is a range 3 grappler.
Sure. Yeah, I can see that argument for how you're talking about him.
He sure pays a lot of life and is bad at positioning.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely he's got some grappler DNA somewhere, I think. So that's all of his cards. That's kind of how he works. We've talked quite a bit about the normals already. You mentioned like these are your range 1 game plan, definitely. Any other considerations about how I'm using the normals or their boosts that are particularly like important for Baelkhor?
Sure. Let me make a couple or a few specific notes, right? So I mentioned there are some ways that you can spontaneously win the game because you want to strike on defense and the opponent's now at range 3.
Right.
Right. So the most obvious way is you defended with grasp or EX grasp.
Right.
Now they die.
Right.
Other notable ways include, in particularly this board state, you defended with cross, and you got hit by sweep, and you're sad, except that they're dead.
Right.
The sweep might take out your from hell, and that would be a problem. But it is sometimes the case that you can simply win the game by doing this. The last notable case is this one. You defend with dive because they played a sweep or a focus. They played a focus so that you couldn't respond with grasp. Cool. You go to range 3. Their focus misses. You win the game.
And they die. Right.
Yeah. Then they die is the end of all of these little anecdotes of what happens if you defend against the right thing at the right time, the right place, and also you have 5 gauge from hell.
Right.
So the fact that there's this many options is why it's often useful to have a from hell that's still around to threaten, so that if your opponent flips and you see that weak point and you take hold of it, they either die or you cut them in half, right? Like maybe depending on how the game's been going, 13 isn't enough, but it's okay. It's a good start.
Yeah, and you can probably ride that momentum and close it out some other way with other power values that are close to 13.
Yeah, you will have power. You are not lacking for power.
Got it. Okay.
So these are some notable instances of that. Tech I don't use a lot as Baelkhor because I have a pretty good boost kit. I said I don't usually use my my Face of Fear or Dark Insight, but I just have a card that says, you can't stun me, you can't move me.
Right.
As long as you're not moving into me, then I can do this. And if you are moving into me, I can just play Focus or Sweep.
Sure.
So like I don't usually need to try to win very hard to play Boost Wars, to win Boost Wars. So I don't use my tech much more than other characters might use it, even slightly less.
And dive is good with boosts on it, and this is what Baelkhor is getting when he exceeds is effectively boosts.
Yeah, like he can have a really, really good dive.
Right. Okay.
The unbeatable dive, right? The 1,348,5.
That's pretty good.
It's pretty good. There is a character for whom that is a 2 gauge ultra. So, actually, more than one character. Anyway, run is invaluable. You need it.
Right.
Like your movement kind of sucks. If you are cornered, run is how you get out of the corner, and also you become, horrifying. So like that's good. Use it pretty much for that purpose. Seldom use it for other purposes. Obviously, sometimes you have to cross out of things. Sometimes your opponent has their own like devastating thing that you don't want to get hit by.
Right.
Uh,
And if you're bad at range 1 and really scary at range 3, getting to range 4 is like part of the way of getting to
yeah,
range 3.
yeah, and you're scary at range 4. Like you're
Right.
not world-endingly scary, but you're scary.
Right.
Like these two cards indicate
Yeah.
that,
And a really scary dive.
and potentially really scary dive. Yeah, depending on when you are in the game.
Right. Okay.
Cross is also nice just because being on curve, right, means likely to hit, likely to be able to seal.
Right. Sure.
So even if the opponent plays something that you are forced to trade with, that's okay. You were expecting that. Uh, so you like your on curve normals. You really value run. That's it. Backstep almost never happens.
Makes sense.
Like the theoretical case of my opponent is cornered at range 1, and that's actually pretty awkward. Let me back up to range 3 or 4. That's when I use backstep.
Right.
But I am an EX Assault addict. So generally, if I'm at range 1, my opponent's cornered and I'm holding Assault, I'm instead looking for how I can hit them with that Assault.
Yeah.
Because that seems much more fun to me. Any other normal boosts? Light's good, but you knew that already. Use it
Yep.
for dive spike, maybe cross, or to diffuse your opponent's boosts.
Right. You
Defend.
mentioned defend being
Okay.
particularly strong as a way to play at range 1 when I might not necessarily be able to otherwise.
Yeah. Defend plus where is the other special? There it is. Yeah. Defend plus either of these is a 1 to 3 that trades against faster things, ensures that you will hit them,
Right.
and stuns sweep.
Right.
In one case. Like that's pretty reasonable. I will usually prefer to play defend rather than spike. Right. The role of spike is to say, your slower thing is stuns. That's also
Right.
the role of Baelkhor.
Baelkhor, sure,
So
I have that. I
yeah.
assume similar considerations about fierce. Like, what do I care about +2 power?
Oh yeah, no, I never boost fierce.
Right.
I'm like,
Okay.
wow, I really could use extra power anyway.
I'm Baelkhor.
Yeah, like I will instead have extra power, extra speed, and get a new hands.
And I change cards. Sure. Okay. Okay.
Like,
And then let me go all the way down and grab these two. These ones generally you can
oh,
kind of say similar things about.
this is a great source of gauge.
Yeah.
And you do like gauge, and you do like things that have armor on them.
Yeah, a great way to not die. Both of these cards, actually.
Yeah, they both have armor. Their focus often will let you trade into things in a way that's useful.
Right.
So that 2 armor is going to turn into 2 life that you spend basically. But and then block is I'm not dead, and also I have a little more gauge. Parry and reading are well documented, very valuable at high levels of play. I don't tend to reading much as Baelkhor. I tend to just say if I don't want them to play a particular thing, I will prevent them from playing that particular thing.
Right.
And anything else I will outstat. I would rather play focus. Like just the number of delta on this card, the 4 power and 2 armor,
right,
helps me last through and have less of a difference to make up at the end game.
Right. And you're bad at range 1, they're going to put you at range 1, you're going to need focus.
Yeah, I'm going to need focus. Yeah.
Sure. Okay.
Exactly.
Makes sense to me. Okay. So that's our normal kit. It sounds like honestly kind of similar to how we were talking about Natali. Like another character who is just like not very good at range 1 and also like without some help in Baelkhor's case, the other things that they can do are not all that great as attacks. So I'm going to be using my normals to survive until I can do whatever thing I'm doing that is going to completely murder my opponent.
Yeah, and in Natali's case, it's pretty linear. It's this
Right.
plus mix-ups.
Right.
Like you have to play mix-ups as well. She has a slightly scarier abuse kit, which is strange to say, but I actually think it's true.
Sure.
Because she has action compression and also +4 speed instead of +2 power +1 speed.
Yep.
And then this, like this is what you do.
Yep. Makes sense. Let's probably get this card out of here.
I mean these.
Yeah.
And sometimes this.
Right. And whatever normals you can amp up from this. Sure. Okay. And this is enough because you're Baelkhor and you are going to hit for 1 billion damage. So the kind of last question that I have, we've been talking and alluding around this whole time about this question of economy of like, I'm sealing things that's going to take things out of my reshuffle. I won't have them later. I will have a thinner deck later on. I'm going to go through my deck quite quickly. I need gauge. I need cards in hand. I have some pretty great draw sources and no
Mhm.
movement anywhere.
Yes.
Um, and I need to play neutral. How am I managing all of these competing resource priorities that aren't about killing my opponent?
Um, that's good old fashioned exceed neutral. That's season one neutral. So
Yep.
this is life when you have no specific tools. Somebody asked me that earlier today, actually. Uh, yeah, she said, like, hey, what happens to Belkhor in zoning matchups? Like, no movement, no obvious ways to deal with it. My answer is Belkhor deals with it the same way anybody deals with it who doesn't have ways to deal with it. Um, use run effectively,
Hmm.
cut your losses when you need to cut your losses, and when you have waded through all of the attacks, sometimes you pay for it. Sometimes you'll have to pay this as force.
Right.
It's a sad truth. Um, then you'll be standing here, and your opponent will realize that they don't have your stats. Um, so the resource management component of this is essentially how every grappler has to play. You are very careful with your movement resources. You are willing to play defend with dive at range 5,
Right.
right? You would prefer not to, but you're willing to because you need to get into a relevant range against a character who has very strong range tools because you have one very strong range tool, and when it's gone, it's gone.
Right.
You would kind of rather not use it, at least not use both of them. You play block just to cut your losses and to build a gauge, kind of for free, not quite for free. And as long as you're holding something like block or focus, you're willing to take turns off. You're willing to say, I'm going to prepare because my opponent will win the next strike, but I will mitigate.
Right.
And then after I have mitigated, I will get a fresh hand and win the next strike after that. Right? You are willing to take a lot of losses to get a lot of free hits, to get punched and pummeled in the corner for a while, knowing that that's not going to last forever. Uh, but yeah, neutral is really just take the walk action, use run, use defend to mitigate, use block and focus to mitigate. Stay in
Use
ranges
your
where you're
assault and
relevant.
dives.
Yeah, stay in ranges where you're relevant. For the level odds solely, do not play Blade of Souls. Um, you'll be tempted. Don't do it.
Right.
Um, do play Desperate Gambit. Uh, good attack. Because yeah, you are relevant out to range 4, which does of course mean like any other character, you can go, well, these 3 spaces.
Right. I'll just hang out here, and how far away can you
Yeah,
really run from me?
yeah, because you don't really need to go closer than range 3 to be absolutely horrifying,
Right.
right? At range 2, it's like, okay, I guess now I can play Desperate Might and Cross, but like I'm pretty happy here.
Right. And
Um,
I mean the other part of this uh complicated equation of neutral meaning economy and movement is that sometimes my opponent isn't trying to keep me here, they're trying to keep me here or
yes,
here. And in that
yeah,
case the same situation applies. I'm mitigating in the corner and then I'm trying to do this exact same combo to
yeah, for a
get
different reason.
here.
Yeah, you are running, you are defending, diving, you are paying a bunch of force because you have to.
Right.
Um, just to make it explicit, but as with anyone else, right? If you pay force to go over here, please have a focus handy
Sure.
so they can't just play grasp, right? Like that, yeah. Because if they strike with grasp and then you didn't have a thing to deal with that, you are now back in the corner and you just wasted a turn.
Wasted some force
Um,
too. Sure, sure.
yeah. But yeah, like you should be willing to pay some force to get out, especially out past range 1,
Right.
if you don't have run.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that makes
Because
that
yeah,
makes perfect
you know,
sense.
and keeping in mind, right, like you have cards that are only good late game. Um, okay, you have that card that's only good late game. You have cards that are mediocre at other times.
Right.
Um, I would prefer to boost this, but like if the rest of my hand is good enough that I'm not willing to boost this, then I should be willing to pay this force.
Sure. That's actually
If
a really good heuristic. That actually makes a lot of sense. Okay.
yeah, if my hand is good enough that I don't want to throw it away, then this is probably the worst card in it.
Sure. Yeah.
Um, you can always pay this as force. If you're disadvantaged, then you're paying this as force. If you're
Right.
advantaged, you're boosting it.
Right. And you're not the additional economic tension of needing to also seal cards isn't really as much of a factor for you as it is for somebody else who is uh devoting their resources to multiple different places, because you're really sealing by hitting the opponent and playing the occasional boost. all you need to do on top of that is to survive the game. And paying
Yeah.
force to survive the game is completely acceptable.
Yeah. Yeah. You don't have, so sealing will reduce the number of cards you have remaining total, but it's not usually going to cause a big resource problem. Right. So this one gains you resources, sort of like it takes them out of your hand and puts them in your gauge, but it is generally a thing you use to gain resources. It's just that it will cost you short term
Right.
hands. Where is it? There, Soul Ripper Boost, Devouring Souls gives the card back. Deal one, draw one, also gain some life. The ones that are, or the one that is hard negative is this one, right? You spin this and lose a card, and that's a lot of resources gone.
Right.
But yeah, so you're not generally like losing out on total resources, even if they're moving around or switching out. And then the number of cards you have remaining in your deck is really just not a concern because you
hit
practically
so
cannot be forced out of relevant ranges.
Right.
And within your relevant ranges, you have obscene amounts of power.
Sure. That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
notably, right? Like if your opponent does try to zone you late game, this has +2 power as if it was made for that exact purpose. Where you're like, oh, you're trying to zone me. Good thing this hurts even more now.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. That makes perfect sense. So before we talk about counterplay, I wanted to come back to this question about functional errata and like the different Baelkhors, because I actually, this came up pretty recently in Breakfast Club. I think like a specific very weird edge case.
Yes,
That was
good.
that was pretty clearly not thought of when Baelkhor was made because the characters in question weren't didn't exist yet.
Yep. Okay. So, the intent behind Baelkhor's ability was always that it's not sealing it instantly; it's sealing it after the strike. It says after the strike.
Right.
Cool. After the strike is not a formal timing.
Sure.
That's those words don't mean anything. At the end of the strike was formalized in season 3 as a Street Fighter. That timing actually also doesn't mean anything in season 2, where a lot of at the end of the strike effects exist.
Yeah, the one I'm thinking of is Sydney and Serena. It's like the one way you can move focus is
Yes.
is on that kit.
Yes, because the written timing of it is at the end of the strike, which happens after your opponent's focus has left play.
Right.
Like this is essentially a bug. It's a glitch that was introduced as part of the rule standardization. And folks kind of looked at it and went like, okay, that's fine.
Right.
Yeah,
because
at the end of the strike is supposed to be after attacks leave play.
Right. So focus has already gone to gauge. The thing on focus that says you cannot be pushed or pulled doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. So I would like to demonstrate the absurdity of the intended gameplay here. This is a character called King Knight.
Yes.
All right. I assume you've done his lesson already.
Yep, I have. Yeah, Snake did a great King Knight lesson.
Excellent. All right, cool. So you're gonna hit Baelkhor with that card there. And I'm going to find the cards that I've scattered all over the table.
Hey.
There we go. All right. Oh, hi, Waldo. Don't need you right now. All right. So the intended gameplay. You hit, you seal this. I hit, I pay some life, and at the end of the strike, I seal it.
Right.
All right. That's a little weird.
Yeah. So I mean, the fact that with the exception of Juno, who isn't really doing it on attacks, Baelkhor is the only character in Red Horizon who seals cards is like this is kind of part of where the design language is breaking down. It seems like.
Yeah. Here's the second really funny, silly case. I guess range 3, sure. Yeah. That's how we trade with Hadoken, right? Cool. You hit me. You put your attack on top of your deck.
Right.
I hit you. I pay 2 life. And at the end of the strike, I take the top card of your deck because we both know it's Hadoken.
Right.
This is not sane. Like, this is not okay. This does not work in the engine. A similar problem, right, is if your attack returns to your hand by some mechanism.
Sure.
Then
that one's the prototype Hadoken, the Cyrus card. I can't remember his looping projectile.
Well, literally anything Zoe plays.
There you go. No,
But
that's
also
probably a
that.
better one. It's gonna bug me though. Keep talking, please, though, D. I don't mean to distract.
You're good. I think the one you're thinking of returns a card from discard, though.
Oh, it might. Yep,
Yeah,
discard
are the
pile. Yeah,
ones.
thank you.
Yep. But yeah, so Zoe can return her attack to hand as an after effect. Note that this is a within season matchup,
Sure.
right? So
Yes.
so Zoe was released. She did exist. And when people pointed out, like, hey, hold on, what if Zoe returns her attack to hand in the middle of the strike with this after effect? Because she can do that. Like during the strike, she returns her
Right.
attack to hand, so she has no attack in play.
Right.
Uh, the ruling at the time was, well, Baelkhor seals it from her hands.
Okay.
Um, this is a problem for a bunch of reasons. Here is maybe the most obvious reason if folks are following on what's going on mechanically. Zoe plays Assault, returns it to her hands. I sweep that out of your hand, and I pay 2 life.
Where does it go? Because you've
The
swept it at that point.
when I hit you, you had no attack in play.
Right.
Intent is no, go grab the Assault. We remember you played Assault. It's fine.
Right.
Um,
But Exceed isn't a memory game. Exceed is not a
it's
game
not
where
no.
you're allowed to do that.
Yeah, it's not a memory game. And there's also verifiability issues, right? So the top
Yes.
deck, the Hadouken thing, where it's like, well, we both know that, I guess. What if I had managed to perform some effect that shuffled my deck? What if I sealed something face down, and now you have to know like
Right.
that it's in my sealed area face down, despite just
Right.
being hidden.
So
Um,
we if we were obeying the way that Baelkhor works in the engine and proceeding with the development of Exceed as a game since then, Spectre Knight could not exist. A character who seals things face down.
well, we can start with just proceeding with Exceed as an engine since Baelkhor is why Baelkhor has errata,
There we go.
right?
Yeah.
Because my point is that this doesn't work.
Right. Right.
This ruling was one that I facetiously referred to
This is the fishhook. Yeah.
as a fishhook ruling.
Yep.
Because the intent is that the opponent's attack has a little fishhook attached to it, and if Baelkhor pays 2 life, then at the end of the strike he yanks on the line.
Right.
And now he has that in his sealed area.
Right.
This is not sane. It's not reasonable. It does not make much sense, except in the narrow realm of, well, I know what the card was meant to do. I know what they had in mind, so we'll
Right.
just do that.
Right. Sure. Sure. So, and
The engine does not like it.
when you say not sane, you don't mean broken in the sense that this is too powerful. You mean broken in the sense that like Exceed as a game doesn't function with this in play.
Yeah, it would be like having an attack with a printed speed of NA.
Sure. Yeah.
The game doesn't
the game doesn't know what to do with that.
Yeah. The engine just stops and goes, no, that's not a thing.
We're not playing Exceed anymore.
Yeah. Like we lost you.
Right. Okay.
So the Baelkhor errata that is, technically unofficial, but which is in play for the tournament that I'm currently hosting. Shameless plug, that won't matter because by the time this video comes out, it will be long past registration. Anyway, nonetheless, it's supposed to install a cleanup effect, right? So hits, you may spend 2 life to gain cleanup, seal the opponent's attack.
Right.
If their attack leaves play mid-strike, their attack left play, it's gone.
Right.
If Hadouken's on top of the deck, sorry, it's gone. Can't steal Healing Hammer from your sealed area. Can't steal, Selinka's attack from her sealed area if she managed to seal it first. Although that's the really weird edge case, but
that's the one that came up in Breakfast Club earlier this week. Yeah, that's a crazy one.
Yes, because they both have an effect that does that.
Right.
But with Baelkhor, the errata is hit. You may spend 2 life to gain cleanup, seal the opponent's attack. So it doesn't seal them when they would leave play, which was the actual intended, right? So the intended, this is a transliteration of the intended effect.
Right.
Right. And if you wanted to not play with errata, you would still want to do this because this is engine compatible. It works in Exceed, and it is what was intended.
Right.
So the errata is to clean things up and to make them more consistent. Clean up, seal, like hit. You may spend 2 life to gain clean up, seal the opponent's attack.
Right.
Mainly because it simplifies a lot of interactions with people whose attacks can move around in the middle of a strike by various means.
So if you have the option, you'll probably never play with this Baelkhor. You might play, depending on your taste, with either this Baelkhor or the Baelkhor whose character ability says cleanup.
Yeah, and if you have this Baelkhor, chances are this Baelkhor is a pretty natural way to read this Baelkhor.
Definitely, yeah. Like as you said, this was something
That's the
that
point.
is the intent is clear enough that you would need to sort of like you need to find these edge cases that don't make sense. Most of the time, it should be fine.
Yeah, if you do want to play, a more modern, in my opinion, Saner, but a more modern version that like comports with modern timing rules, because or cleanup wasn't invented until season 3. Season 1 and 2
Right.
didn't have it.
Right.
Using the cleanup timing is what obviously makes sense. Like
Sure.
that's definitely what he would have been built to use.
Right.
Um, as an aside, by the way, same name is what was written. Was even technically ruled that way, but it means a copy.
Right.
Keeping in
Right.
mind that this is a copy of Slash.
Yeah.
And this
Wherever
is a
Dust
copy of
is a
Dust.
copy of Dust. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Spike is a copy of Dust.
Oh,
Ryu and
also,
Ken
sorry.
both have Sure You Can. Those aren't the same card.
Yeah, there is an important difference between these two, which is to say that this says has been sealed. This says in your sealed area. In your sealed area was always intended. If the opponent seals their own cards, Baelkhor does not suddenly become stronger for some reason.
Understood. Okay, yeah, and that would obviously, especially now that more characters seal things, the Baelkhor 9 matchup would be
I was about to pull 9 out. I was like, yeah, the
right.
9 matchup would be really funny.
Yeah, 9 starts with. We haven't done the 9 lesson yet, but 9 starts with one copy of every normal sealed. Baelkhor is now in late
Special,
game state already.
special and ultra, but
Oh,
she will
special
tend
ultra.
to.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, but if she seals a normal, cool, she's upgrading Belkor's attack. No, that's
Right.
not how it works. He
Yeah,
only
that
checks
sounds
his
great.
own sealed area.
Right.
And
Right.
that,
Okay.
yeah, that's like, you can call it errata if you want to, but that's just clarification. That
Sure.
at the time in season 1, when Belkor was released, well, I should say when Belkor was designs, he was the only sealer.
Right.
Like, so he was published in that state. Even though Juno was released alongside him, she was actually made like finalized later.
Right.
She was an addition.
Right. That makes sense. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for the clarification. Hopefully that helps people who are having some issues with these timing issues, as we've seen in Breakfast Club recently. The last question that I typically have is about counterplay, and we've sort of already alluded to quite a bit of this. Is that what they're going to be doing to Baelkhor is taking advantage of the fact that he has absolutely no neutral presence outside of stats.
I actually also need to make one more clarification. Sorry,
Oh, please.
because this boost also has a problem in the engine.
Oh, sure. Yeah, no, I've actually heard about this too. Apocalypse Seal has an FAQ entry, I think.
FAQ and errata, I believe.
Yeah.
But the intent behind Apocalypse Seal is they place all their copies of the card in your sealed area.
Right.
It's omitted boost area mainly for space reasons. It said hand, deck, gauge, and discard because at the time those were the areas that existed. It admittedly probably shouldn't be able to pull Turnalis' transformations out. But the problem with this is it's possible under weird circumstances for it to be impossible for the opponent to verify how many copies of the card exist in their hand, deck, gauge, and discard. If they have a face down sealed area, they can look Baelkhor square in the eye and say, "Sorry, I have 0 copies in my hand, deck, gauge, and discard."
Right.
And Baelkhor cannot know if that is true.
Right.
So the tournament errata for that is place all their own copies of that card into your sealed area, searching any necessary areas to do so.
Okay.
Like it is a functional buff, but it's one which allows the card to resolve because right now, or as printed, and arguably as intended, since I know it was the version that printed was considered acceptable. If the opponent has a face down sealed area, they can just not verify. They can say, "Oh, sorry, I have 2 copies sealed." When Baelkhor legally cannot check that.
Right. Right.
And the game state must always be verifiable by both players at all times. That's an ironclad rule of Exceed.
Yep.
So that's the other notable errata, and this is actually relevant because you can seal the opponent's boost from play. But that is the only sane ruling to make it verifiable outside of writing 4 more lines of text.
Right.
Hand, deck, gauge, discard, searching, revealing, etc. Because yeah, you don't want Baelkhor to have to look at the opponent's hand and deck. That's not an acceptable resolution.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that makes sense. So again, for folks who are wondering, there are D maintains a really great FAQ and errata list for people's perusal, in which Baelkhor has a substantial entry. So consult that if needed. It is a really, really helpful thing, especially for these earlier earlier season characters who don't comport to more recent Exceed templating standards and things like that, and especially ones who have errata like this.
Yep.
Any
And if you
other?
ever have a question you don't see resolved, then please bring it up. Contact me, maybe Gearface. Can't speak for him. But just like see that word gets to me, it'll get added to the errata.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'll send a raven, or a crow, I
I'll send
guess.
back a pigeon.
Yeah, I'll
We're
ask
not
I'll
sure
ask
how that
Poulter
works.
to get in contact with you. Okay, makes sense. Any other rules clarifications, or shall we talk counterplay?
That's all I can think of. I already mentioned the reshuffle action counting your automatic reshuffle, which is the other
Yes.
major thing.
Yep.
All
Okay.
right. Let me destroy
Yes.
our fish hook here. No fish hook. Gone.
Yes, please tell me a little bit about how to stop this guy.
All right. Well. All right. That's a good start.
Yep.
We have already discussed Baelkhor does not like range one. He is very normals reliance, and using his normals early means he can't use them late. Like he would actually like to steal your normals and then play that normal twice, so that he gets some really dumb normal, twice. Having to use his focuses, his sweeps, sometimes his grasps or his crosses early means he doesn't get to use them when they're particularly awesome later.
Sure.
As with every character, but as with many characters in particular who are game plan characters, rush him down is always a good answer. Be very, very careful of Desperate Gambit. It is his answer to, not exactly range one rush down where he goes, you thought you could kill me, but actually you're dead. Well,
Right.
not dead, but actually the life totals are a lot closer than they looked a minute ago.
Right.
And if you play a mid speed that is slower than speed 4, or if he initiates and you respond with anything that's slower than speed 5, you get crushed. Like
Sure.
9 power is a lot.
It doesn't matter how much
and
damage you're doing in return because you're not hitting.
Yeah, you are going to get stunned.
Right. Okay.
So be keenly aware of this. Don't hand him a free from hell, but we've already talked about that. You're not likely to. Be pretty willing to play slightly odd stuff on the expectation that's like he's trying to find an opening to make a from hell setup. Don't allow him to have it.
Right.
Yeah.
Throw that assault into the corner when you think he's playing dive to get to range 3 to get rid of the from hell threat.
Mm-hmm. From starting from range 1, right? So
yes, exactly. Yeah. Basically, to deal with this, go back and review the section where D talked about grasp, cross into the corner, and dive out of the corner as ways to confirm from hell, and then don't get hit by those.
Yeah, don't let him do those on defense such that board state actually emerges when he has 5 gauge.
Right.
Which, the gauge is meaningful. He is going to be trying to build up. He will occasionally have dips where he has just boosted endless power, so his hand is thin, or he just had to pay a bunch of resources to move, or he just seems to be very pointedly staying at a range, even though he doesn't have the gauge to threaten anything. Probably means that he does not have the tools that he wants to have at range 1.
Right.
If you have action compression, that's a great way to take advantage of that, where you can jump into a hole in his defense and hit him real hard. If you don't have action compression, you probably have stats. Going to a range that he likes less, which is mostly 1, but he doesn't love 2 either. Just Desperate Gambit's mostly very, very good at 2.
Right.
That's a decent way to just stand there and say, okay, well, you'll have ridiculous stats later, but in the meantime, I can punch you to death before later happens.
Sure.
He is deceptively speed sensitive, which is to say that Desperate Gambit mostly isn't, except for movement effects. But no guard.
Bad attack.
Guard is a drawback. And often misses despite the guard, right?
Yeah.
Depending on the state. At best trades. So these attacks are fast, make no mistake. But if you have speed, then you can probably be faster. Right. He is as fast as anybody who is not built around being super fast. He has awesome stuff at his favorite ranges, and then you get one step closer and things look a lot worse.
Right.
So mostly strong footsies is like the most effective counter to Baelkhor because it just prevents him from doing his dumb stuff. Early game, running strong offense is like the thing to do because you
Right.
want to have a hefty life lead before
Yeah.
he hits his late game.
Yeah. Make him make that Baelkhor come back because he can. The game will be close if you are at a huge life advantage, but maybe you can close it out in time.
Hmm. Yeah, and then whether you are playing normals and he's stealing them, and then the life cost is what you have to work with, or whether you're playing specials and he's not stealing them and now you have gauge to work with,
Right.
is very much you play your character. I don't, that depends on what character you're playing as for which way you're going to lean. Maybe you have fantastic specials
Like
and
Ryu.
you're willing to just chuck them at him fairly
Sure.
often. Um, maybe you're going to be Normal's Reliance and he's going to spend life to steal them.
Right.
But now he spent that life and you get a chance to try to close the game on him before he becomes awesome.
Sure. Okay.
But yeah, Desperate Gambit is the thing that can throw a wrench in that more than anything else. If you have parry, feel free to parry it. If you have reading, consider that, look at a sealed area and be like, oh, he sure has assaults, grasp, and dive in a sealed area. I wonder if he might have an assault, a grasp, or a dive that he's setting up now that he's
Right.
succeeded.
Right.
Like, see if you can take advantage of that knowledge.
And
these are going to be really awesome, but
it
you
might
be able
not.
to.
It also might not be incredibly trivial to take advantage of the knowledge that he has a what a 1 to 3 7 7 or 1 to 3 7 6 or something like that.
Yeah,
Like, be
unless he has a
careful.
Yeah. You need to actually be able to beat it. And if he
Yeah.
sealed one copy of yours and has 2 copies of his, then you might in fact be facing an unbeatable EX.
Yes.
But like, look for grasp because he wants to not be at range 1, which means you might be able to read grasp at range 3.
Right.
Because he likes to keep grasp around, but he doesn't.
He's not aiming to play it. He's aiming to hold it as a defensive option.
Yeah, so that he might have a EX grasp to play on defense to put you in to From Hell, or have a really dumb grasp on defense.
Right.
Like, consider that. Of course, if you have boosts, you can boost for him reasonably well. He has good boosts, but they're not better than anybody who has good boosts.
Sure. Again, Ryu.
Yeah, noted character who has good boosts. Anything else? Yeah, I don't think zoning him is realistic, but like with mini grapplers, once you get to the part of the game where he's really online and things look really scary, the more resources you make him spend to acquire his favorite range, and the more time it takes him, like, the more information you have about what he doesn't have anymore.
Right.
Like you can. He should be playing such that he doesn't require From Hell to win, but he wants to threaten it. So make him commit to threatening it as often as you can. Make him, do things to reestablish that range, or else play other stuff, more beatable stuff.
Right.
I love the range 1 sweep with +3 power and +1 speed, but it still loses to dive.
Sure. Yeah, and From Hell notably does not.
Yeah. Like, I love the range 1 assault with +3/+1, but it still loses to grasp.
Sure.
Love the range 1 grasp, but it loses to sweep and focus.
Right. Right.
Okay. If you have enough of a life lead, you can often still win against an exceeded Baelkhor who is fully online, as long as you are able to lose, huge chunks of your life a few times, because you only need to hit him for a little bit a few times to win.
Right. And I mean, it probably goes without saying, the 3 things that you love at range, your sweep, your assault, your grasp. If you have the ability to maintain the options that do beat those mix-ups, Apocalypse Seal notwithstanding, do it. Because he's probably going to do his best to take it away from you anyway. Don't do that work for him.
Yeah, don't give up your options for free that are your only answers to things. If you throw away all of your assaults and you get cornered at range 3, and you think you're fine because he only has 2 gauge, that's how you eat 9 damage.
Sure.
Right? Like, you need to keep on top of mostly faster things. Speed, so assault and cross are the big notable ones where it's like, okay, being able to cross out of Desperate Gambit or Accursed Gaze is very notable. You might need to initiate in order to beat really dumb assaults or really dumb Accursed Gaze, but you can be willing to do that. But yeah, so a lot of it is footsies. The rest is how you play against grapplers. Is you pay attention to what options they're keeping live, use that to inform what threats you think they are going to deploy, and then preserve your answers to those threats.
Sure, that makes sense. Okay. Well, cool. It sound honestly, this entire thing makes Baelkhor sound like a pretty kind of a fun opponent to fight too. Um, so
Mhm.
I'm really looking forward to giving this a try. Um,
Yeah, yeah. You'll
uh,
only find him frustrating if you really hate either side of this card. You know,
yeah,
if you hate having a card just removed from your game, sorry,
right.
he'll
And I
do
mean,
it.
this is some blue magic gathering stuff. This is control play. Definitely,
Mhm.
I can see that causing some salt. Um, the rest of what Baelkhor is doing seems pretty cool. I'm actually I would say that like uh as mentioned, I go into these Red Horizon and Seventh Cross lessons completely blind. And Baelkhor was a character that I have completely written off as being a gear face character prior to this lesson. So D, thank you so much for doing a lot of work to rehabilitate his image in my eyes.
Happy to. Yeah,
Yeah.
he's a pretty awesome general from hell who wants to destroy the world, and he'll do it.
Yeah, he needs
Give him a
some
chance.
image rehabilitation, clearly, with if that's what he's working with. He
Yeah.
needs to
Uh,
open up a non for profit or something.
yeah. One more counterplay note. Uh, unless I forgot what I was about to say. Hold on. Sorry. The image of Bill Crow opening a nonprofit has possibly shut down my mind. Oh, right. If he's low on cards, even if he's at his favorite range, like, try not to die to From Hell.
Right.
But in many cases, you should still be trying to pressure him. He's got one or two cards in hand, could still be holding the one that murders you. But if
Right.
you have any way to like move one and strike, you're afraid of other options. But he's really bad at wild swinging.
Right.
Like, what if he's low on hands? Like
Just stay
that's
on
that's a
him.
great time to pressure him, stay on him, get in his face, make it hard for him to do things because he is an awful wild swinger, especially at range one, and he's not that great at range two.
Right.
Um,
Okay.
Not bad, but not great.
Yeah. No, makes perfect sense. Um, uh, do the things that will set up situations where he is low on cards, make him bleed resources, um, and then capitalize as best you can.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
makes perfect sense. So the last question that we talk about, the way that we typically close these lessons out, is if I'm the biggest Baelkhor fan in the world, as I am now, that he's opened this nonprofit and we've rehabilitated his image in the eyes of the public. I'm the biggest Baelkhor fan in the world. What other characters should I try out if I really love Baelkhor?
So, there's a whole season of characters who do late game setup nonsense.
Yep.
Season two, as a prevailing theme, turn into monsters. In the late game, both literally and metaphorically.
Yeah.
Um, and if that's what appeals to you, you're like, man, I really wish I could have this incredibly oppressive end game, and I don't mind if I lose 3/4 of the game up until then because I have this ridiculous end game. Season two is full of that.
Right.
Um, of particular note, Turn and Loose ramps his power steadily by sealing normals. I'm throwing cards all over the place.
Don't worry about it.
Um, but yeah, he steals his cards transforms his cards steadily. Also likes to kind of collect normals over here.
Right.
Though instead of sealed area, it's his transformation area. Um, the Actually, there's a character who was pretty directly based on Baelkhor in a later season.
Mm.
Uh, Arcane's Exceed mode used to have +3 power, +1 speed.
Okay.
That was
As
the
like a
draft.
reference.
It was like, yeah, we know that that's the amount of stats that you should have for doing something incredibly stupid and time consuming and hard.
Right.
That's an acceptable reward. Turns out it wasn't.
Right.
But yeah, like Arcane is, I'm going to collect a set of things and then kill you with the other half of that set of things, sort of. He's got a lot of that. Um, Also is kind of frail early game. Also is not very impressive stat wise early game. Also has some control effects.
Yep.
Has stuff that messes with the opponent's hand. Has stuff that annoys the daylights out of everybody because they suddenly can't hit range one, um, or range whatever you say in some cases. But yeah, so control character with wild oppressive late game shenanigans. Um, these are the two most obvious, other than like the rest of season two.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we talked
Uh,
earlier about like the design lineage of Baelkhor basically encompassing all other game plan characters. And I feel like these are probably the most notable of them.
yeah, I think that's probably the case. If you heard like 8 power, 9 power, 7 power, and you're like, okay, cool. Yeah. So Waldstein is, I think, also a mid-range grappler. Like he's a grappler who favors range 2 to 4, not range 1.
Right.
Um, and he also does require quite a bit of time and effort to come online. Much more forgiving neutral. Um, yeah. If wading through neutral with no special tools and no movement is not your thing, then good news. Season 6 has movement. It has it in spades.
Right.
Waldstein is no exception.
Right. Okay.
Um, like you are not out of Waldstein's reach, just ever. Um, and he has really, really big power numbers. It just he only gets to use them a few times, but that's okay. That's enough.
Yeah, you don't need to use him very much more than that.
Yep.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if there's any other notable cases. Yeah, there are other characters like Spectre Knight who interact with sealed area, but don't do it in the same ways at all.
Right.
Like Spectre Knight is not a stats monster; he's a slippery, more of a ninja than anything else. I
Yep.
think.
Yep.
Season 3 Street Fighter is full of neutral monsters, which Baelkhor really isn't. It's full of stats monsters, which Baelkhor is, but they just kind of come out of the gate swinging. They don't really need setup.
Yeah, they need
Some,
one gauge to critical,
yeah,
and that's probably good for a while.
yeah. I guess the closest in Season 3 is Vega,
Yeah, no,
who does, by the way, have Baelkhor stats.
yeah, those same stats.
Yeah. And does require a decent amount of time to get online and a decent amount of effort to
Right.
build up the resources because he's really only online after he exceeds.
Friend of the show, Blue, semi-famously figured out Vega when he, you know, had the lightning strike of an idea that Vega is a Red Horizon character.
Yeah, Vega is a Red Horizon character. You just go, yep. You just build gauge really aggressively, you exceed, and now you're awesome.
Yep.
That's about right.
Okay. Yep. Makes sense to me.
Can't think of anybody else with a similar range of things. Trying to find season 4 or 7 pick, but 4 has generally better neutral than Baelkhor has, and generally less overwhelming late game.
Yep.
Even the big stats monsters like Tinker Knight and Polar Knight are pretty fundamentally different.
Yep.
Gold Lewis is a resource monster who has big stats, but it's just big stats on his cards.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't really snowball except by resource advantage, which is, I mean, hey, that's pretty good. But not the same flavor, I don't think. Yeah, I mean, I feel like the fact that we started out the lesson talking about Baelkhor's design lineage, and Baelkhor's design lineage is not... What's that?
And how unique he is, right? Like
exactly.
that was
Baelkhor's design lineage is...
Too,
yeah, it isn't Exceed's design lineage, right? It isn't something that he influenced all other characters after him. It influenced specific characters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Like season 2 shows like what the later evolution of this kind of I'm going to be a game plan character, right? Like he's the most quote unquote game plan character in season 1. Season 2 has got lots of them, but other than that, there's just a few cases where I feel like I can pick out and be like, okay, if you like those stats and working really hard for them. If you like those stats and working really hard for them, and also like being weird and having control effects,
right?
If you like stats, yeah, full stop. And then, well, just I picked a season 2 character who was one of the most season 2 characters.
Yeah, so. You mentioned during our Eternalized lesson one of the most and least 7th Cross characters. Who could possibly be a more and less 7th Cross character than a game plan character not in 7th Cross?
Yep.
Who's a demon from hell, by the way.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, hey, yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Yet more commonality there. And so, I mean, yeah, and like we've got demon from hell, horrible eldritch abomination, assassin, big like badger. And those are basically all like roughly equivalent.
Yeah, those are basically the same thing.
Yeah, that's basically the same thing, right?
Yep.
All right, yeah. So if you like Baelkhor, you have specific refined tastes. Might we interest you in 7th Cross or 7th Cross's descendants? Well, awesome. D, you have, as mentioned, we've opened a nonprofit with Baelkhor.
Yes.
I really, really appreciate you selling me on this character, and I guess also teaching me all about him at the same time. It was super informative as always. So thank you so much. I really enjoyed it.
Hey, my pleasure. Love talking about this guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, I also had a close friend who played him steadily for a long time, uh, and I became duly horrified by this character because I got to see what he could do in so many cases. I was like, wow, Baelkhor's unbeatable. I was really amused to find out that very few people shared that opinion.
yeah,
I'm like, guys, you haven't played against
yeah. You haven't played against a good
it.
Baelkhor.
Like, yeah, no, like, no, Baelkhor is just appalling. But yeah, big red number is a pretty good place to start, and then control effects and interesting, challenging neutral.
Yep.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun.
Yeah. No, really, really looking forward to trying him, which I was not. I did not anticipate when I started this lesson. So, D, I know not to doubt you and your character tastes after like 40 lessons we've done together, something like that.
I have no idea.
Um, well, thank you so much. As
Pleasure.
always, Dee, for your time and your expertise. I really appreciate it. Folks at home, I hope you enjoyed yourself. I hope you learned something. I think I'll see you all for the next one. Goodbye, everybody.
Drink water. It's good
Please
for you.
do.
Stay hydrated.
Stay hydrated, please.
And if you don't go try Baelkhor, give them hell.
Yes. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.